Hey, can I ask you something? Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels upside down? You try so hard, you give your best, yet life still throws you a curveball? And you sit there wondering, why me, why now? Or maybe, there was a time when something didn't go your way. You lost a job, a relationship ended, or a plan failed. And later you realized, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am today. Isn't it strange how sometimes the worst moment becomes the seed of something better? Think about it. Like when you miss a bus, at first you're frustrated. But then you discover the next bus leads you to meet someone important. Or it keeps you safe from something you didn't even know was ahead. Little things, small delays, unexpected turns. They all have reasons hidden inside them. So, welcome to Wisdom Woven. This space is all about slowing down, reflecting, and finding meaning in the chaos. We explore life through gentle wisdom, often inspired by Buddhism, where every experience, good or bad, is seen as part of a bigger picture. Before we dive deeper, I want to say one thing honestly. There are so many views on this channel, but only about 0.3% people hit subscribe. If you're listening right now, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps me keep sharing these stories with you. Now let's begin with something simple yet profound. Buddhism teaches us that nothing happens in isolation. Every moment is connected, like beads in a thread. That's why even when life feels random, there's an unseen pattern. The people you meet, the struggles you face, even the joy that suddenly arrives. All of it is shaped by causes that existed before you even noticed them. Life isn't punishing us, it's shaping us. The struggles? They teach strength. The delays? They build patience. The heartbreaks? They open us to compassion. When you see life this way, everything happens for a reason, stops being just a phrase. It becomes a truth you can live by. And maybe that's why you're here, listening right now. Because this message, this moment, is also happening for a reason. The Buddhist lens, seeing cause and effect. My dear friend, let me sit with you for a while and tell you something the heart already knows, but the mind forgets too often. When you look at your life, you might think that things just happen randomly, like leaves blown by the wind. You may say, why did this happen to me? Why now? Why in this way? But if you sit quietly, if you breathe deeply and open your eyes like a child seeing the world for the first time, you begin to notice something gentle but powerful. Nothing is without cause. Nothing is without reason. Everything that blooms, blooms from a seed, and every seed has a story. In Buddhism, we call this understanding cause and effect. It's not a heavy philosophy. It's as natural as the rain falling or the sun rising. Think about a mango tree. You don't plant a lemon seed and expect a mango to grow. The seed carries its own truth, its own path, and in time it reveals it. In the same way, every action, every word, every thought in your life plants a seed. Some seeds grow quickly, some lie under the soil waiting for the right rain, the right sun. But in time, they show their fruit. So when we say, everything happens for a reason, it is not a mystery written in the clouds. It is the truth of the seeds we have planted and the way the earth nurtures them. Sometimes people come to me with heavy hearts. They say, Master, I worked hard, I was kind, I gave everything. Yet life broke me. And I tell them gently, even the finest farmer sometimes waits through storms before the harvest comes. The seed does not bloom the day you plant it. The soil must first embrace it, the rain must fall, the sun must warm, and time must unfold. Life is not ignoring you, my friend. Life is preparing you. Let me tell you a small story. There was once a young man who lost his job. He felt shame, despair, and anger. Every night he asked, "Why me? What wrong have I done?" But instead of giving up, he began to help his neighbors shop for free, just to keep himself busy. Months later, a traveler visited the village and saw the young man's kindness. That traveler was a merchant, and impressed by his character, he offered him work. Later, that same work grew into a trade that made the young man not only successful, but also respected. If he had not lost his first job, he might never have found the path that carried him so far. Do you see? At first, pain looks like punishment, but later you see it was a turning stone. Cause and effect does not mean everything is our fault, nor does it mean we are victims of fate. It is more like a river. The river flows according to the streams that feed it, the rain that fills it, the stones that shape its path. But if you walk along the banks, you can choose where to step, you can choose where to rest, you can even build a bridge. You cannot stop the river, but you can learn to flow with it. That is the art of seeing reasons in life. When you feel sorrow, when you feel joy, don't just ask, "Why me?" Instead, try asking, "What is this teaching me? What seed is blooming here?" Sometimes the reason is not about you alone. Sometimes your pain becomes the reason for someone else's awakening. A mother's struggle becomes the strength of her children. A teacher's hardship becomes wisdom for a student. Our lives are woven together like threads in a cloth, and your thread may hold up someone else's pattern in ways you cannot see. Think of a lotus flower. It grows only in muddy water. If you only see the mud, you say, "This is dirty, this is ugly." But from that same mud, a pure lotus rises, untouched by the dirt that gave it life. Isn't it the same with us? The reasons life gives us struggle is not to bury us, but to make us bloom. Without the mud, the lotus cannot be. Without trials, the heart cannot awaken. When you understand cause and effect deeply, blame begins to fall away. You stop pointing fingers at others, and you also stop punishing yourself. You realize this is just the unfolding of seeds. And then something very soft happens. You begin to live with patience. Patience is not weakness. It is the wisdom to wait for seeds to ripen. You no longer rush life. You no longer fight the river. You simply walk with it, trusting that every step has a meaning. Sometimes the reason behind things is hidden for years, but that does not mean it is not there. Like stars during the day, the light exists even when your eyes cannot see it. Then, when the night comes, suddenly the sky is filled with them. Life is like that. Reasons appear when the time is ready. Until then, all we can do is trust. And so, my dear friend, when you hear the words, "Everything happens for a reason," don't take them as just comfort. Take them as a mirror. Look at your life. Look at your choices, look at your struggles, and see them as the seeds of tomorrow's wisdom. This way, every joy becomes sweeter, every pain becomes bearable, and every moment, yes, every moment, becomes a teacher. The law of karma, beyond reward and punishment. Come closer, my friend. Sit as if we are sitting beside a quiet river, with only the sound of water flowing and the breeze touching our skin. I want to speak to you about something many people misunderstand, something that is spoken of often but rarely felt deeply: the law of karma. When most people hear the word karma, they immediately think of punishment or reward, like some invisible judge in the sky handing out prizes for good deeds and punishments for bad ones. But karma is not like that. Karma is not a system of punishment. It is not heaven or hell keeping score. Karma is simply the natural echo of life, the way sound echoes back in the mountains when you call out. Imagine for a moment that you stand in a valley and shout the word love. The mountain will not send back the word hate. It can only return what you send out. If you shout with anger, the echo will carry anger back to you. If you whisper gently, the echo will return in the same softness. This is karma, not as a punishment, not as a prize, but as a mirror, as an echo of the life we live. When you smile at someone, even if they do not smile back in that moment, you have planted a seed. That seed may bloom later, perhaps in another corner of your life, perhaps in someone else's heart. And when you wound someone with harsh words or careless actions, the seed is also planted. It does not need to bloom tomorrow, but in time it will grow and return to you in some way. This is not superstition. It is not a threat. It is simply the way life keeps its balance. Let me tell you a story. There was once a woman who always complained about her neighbors. She said they were noisy, careless, and unfriendly. Her mind was filled with irritation every day. One day, an elder in her village asked her to do something. He said, "For 30 days, every morning, offer a kind word to your neighbor, no matter how you feel." At first she resisted, but finally she agreed. She began with forced words, awkward greetings, fake smiles. But slowly, something began to change. Her neighbors responded with warmth. They shared food. They helped her when she was ill. After a while, her heart softened, and she no longer saw them as enemies. What had changed? Was it her neighbors? No, it was the echo of her own actions returning to her. The law of karma had been working all along, like sunlight on seeds hidden in the soil. Karma is not only about what we do with our hands and mouths. It is also about what we hold in our minds. If you carry bitterness, if you hold grudges, those seeds grow inside you, shaping your face, your voice, your days. A person who clings to anger is like someone holding hot coal in their hand, waiting to throw it at another. The longer they hold it, the more it burns them. But when you carry kindness, when you forgive, when you release heavy thoughts, your body lightens, your smile becomes natural, your sleep becomes restful. This too is karma, not a punishment from outside, but the unfolding of what you hold within. Sometimes people ask me, "But Master, what about suffering that comes to innocent people? What about a child who falls sick, or a kind person who meets with misfortune?" These are hard questions, and we must not answer them with cold philosophy. We must hold them with compassion. Buddhism teaches that karma does not belong to one lifetime only. The river of our existence is long and winding, stretching beyond the eyes of one life. Some seeds are planted long ago. Some are shared from the field of collective karma, where the actions of communities, even nations, create ripples that touch the innocent. But listen carefully, my friend. Karma is not meant to trap us in guilt or fear. It is meant to awaken responsibility. Instead of saying, "Why me?" we learn to say, "What now? What can I plant today that will grow into peace tomorrow?" Think of it like tending a garden. You cannot control the weather. Storms may come, drought may arrive, but you can always choose what seeds to put in the ground. If you plant thorns, do not expect roses. If you plant roses, even if storms delay them, one day the fragrance will reach you. Karma asks us to take care of our garden, not to compare it with others, not to despair over weeds, but to keep planting goodness. One day, a disciple came to the Buddha in tears. He had done many wrongs in his youth, stolen, lied, even hurt people, and now he feared his karma would destroy him. The Buddha looked at him with kindness and said, "If you drop a spoon of salt into a small cup of water, the water becomes undrinkable. But if you drop the same spoon of salt into a vast river, the water remains sweet. Your past actions are the salt, but your present actions can make your heart a vast river. Fill your life with kindness, compassion, truth, and your karma will be diluted in the river of your goodness. Do you see, my friend? Karma is not a chain meant to bind us. It is a teacher meant to guide us. If you have done wrong, karma is the whisper telling you, make it right. If you have done right, karma is the breeze that returns to cool your face. Every moment gives us a chance to plant again, to shape again, to redirect the river of our life. So do not fear karma, and do not use it as a weapon to judge others. Instead, look at your own heart and ask, what seeds am I planting today? What echoes am I sending into the mountains? For every thought, every word, every step matters. And when you live with this awareness, life itself becomes lighter, because you know that whatever you face, you are always sowing tomorrow. Remember, karma is not about being punished for your mistakes. It is about learning from them. It is not about being rewarded for your kindness. It is about growing into kindness itself. When you live with this understanding, you stop waiting for reasons to reveal themselves, and you start becoming the reason for goodness in someone else's life. And that, my dear friend, is the most beautiful echo you can ever receive. The Four Noble Truths and Life's Unseen Reasons. My dear friend, let us walk slowly into this teaching, as one would step into a quiet forest in the early morning. The ground is soft with fallen leaves, the air carries the smell of earth, and every sound echoes more deeply because the world is still. In the same way, when we speak of the Four Noble Truths, we must approach them not as scholars chasing knowledge, but as travelers listening to the whispers of the path. Too many times these truths are taught as if they are only doctrines, fixed words carved into stone. But they are not just philosophy, they are living, breathing truths that appear in the little struggles of our daily lives. You see, the Buddha did not set out to build a religion. He set out to understand why people suffer. He looked at kings, beggars, farmers, monks, children, and elders, and he saw a common thread. Whether rich or poor, wise or foolish, everyone carried burdens. Everyone wanted happiness, yet everyone stumbled into pain. So he asked, why is this so? Is suffering only fate, or is there a reason behind it? In that searching, he discovered the Four Noble Truths, which are like four lamps that light the hidden reasons behind our experiences. The first truth is simple yet heavy. Life contains suffering. This suffering is not only the pain of illness or loss. It is also the quiet dissatisfaction that follows us even in joy. Have you noticed, my friend, how when you get something you wanted for so long, a new home, a new love, a new success, at first it fills you with joy, yet slowly, that joy fades, and your heart begins to long for something else. This constant hunger, this restlessness of the human heart, is also suffering. The Buddha was not being negative when he spoke this truth. He was being honest, like a doctor telling us what illness we have before offering the cure. The second truth is the cause of suffering. Here lies the unseen reason. Suffering is born not from life itself, but from our attachment, our clinging, our endless craving. We want things to last forever, but they do not. We want people to never change, but they do. We want the body to remain young, but it ages. We want life to obey our wishes, but it moves according to its own laws. This gap between what we want and what reality offers is the seed of suffering. Think of a child clutching a melting ice cream cone, crying because it drips away. The sweetness is there, but the fear of losing it steals the joy. Aren't we all like that child in many ways? The third truth is perhaps the most comforting. If there is a cause for suffering, then there is also an end. When we let go of attachment, When we release our tight grip on how things should be, suffering softens. It does not mean life becomes free of pain. The storms will still come. The body will still age. Loved ones will still depart. But our relationship to these changes shifts. Instead of drowning in them, we learn to float. Instead of resisting, we learn to breathe. Freedom is not about controlling life. It is about learning to flow with it. The fourth truth is the path, the gentle steps that lead us to freedom. This is not a distant dream. It is a practical way of living. The Buddha called it the Noble Eightfold Path. But I want you to imagine it like a simple road through a village. Each step matters. Right understanding is seeing life clearly. Right intention is planting seeds of kindness. Right speech is speaking words that heal, not harm. Right action is living with integrity. Right livelihood is earning in a way that does not hurt others. Right effort is gently directing the mind. Right mindfulness is being present with each breath, each step. And right concentration is keeping the heart steady like a lamp in the wind. Walk these steps not with pressure, but with patience, and you will see how suffering slowly loosens its grip. Now let me share a story, for stories carry truth in ways that dry words cannot. There was once a woman named Kisa Gautami. Her only child died suddenly, and her world collapsed. She went from house to house, begging for medicine that could bring her child back. At last she came to the Buddha, and with tears begged him for help. The Buddha told her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a house that has not known death, and I will make medicine for your child." Filled with hope, she went door to door. But in every house she visited, she found the same answer. "We too have lost someone we love." Slowly, she realized that her suffering was not hers alone. It was the nature of life itself. When she returned to the Buddha, she was no longer begging for medicine. She was asking for wisdom. That moment of seeing the truth, that shift from resistance to acceptance, was the beginning of her healing. Do you see, my friend, how the Four Noble Truths are not just old teachings, but everyday mirrors? When your heart aches, the first truth is there. Yes, life brings suffering. When you notice your desire, your clinging, the second truth whispers, "Here lies the cause." When you soften your grip, the third truth shines, "There is an end." And when you begin to walk with awareness, kindness, and patience, the fourth truth guides your feet. We must not think of these truths as chains that bind us, but as keys that unlock the meaning behind our struggles. They remind us that every tear has a reason, but also that no tear is forever. They teach us that pain is not punishment. It is a teacher pointing us toward freedom. And most of all, they show us that happiness is not found in controlling life, but in living gently with its flow. When you wake tomorrow and face the little frustrations, the traffic, the arguments, the disappointments, remember these truths. Do not see them as abstract philosophy. See them as lamps in your hands. They will show you that your pain has roots, your joy has wings, and your path has steps you can walk today, not tomorrow. And in that awareness, even ordinary days begin to glow with meaning. So when we say, everything happens for a reason, the Four Noble Truths help us see that reason clearly. They remind us that suffering is not meaningless, that craving is not destiny, that freedom is possible, and that the path is always beneath our feet, walking slowly with the heart. My friend, have you noticed how often we walk so fast that we forget the very ground beneath our feet? We hurry from one thing to another. We rush to reach somewhere. And yet, when we finally arrive, our heart is still restless, like it was still running. Life becomes like that too. We keep running in our mind, thinking about tomorrow, regretting yesterday, and in between, we forget to actually live the step we are taking now. When I was younger, I used to walk through the monastery garden without really seeing it. I thought I was going somewhere, maybe to study, maybe to meet my teacher, maybe to sit for meditation. My feet moved, but my heart was not there. One day, my teacher stopped me and asked, "Why are you walking as if the ground is on fire?" I laughed, because I didn't even realize how fast I was walking. Then he said something very simple. "Walk as if your feet are kissing the earth." That day I slowed down. And you know what happened? I started to feel the coolness of the soil under my sandals, the little crunch of dry leaves, the warmth of the sun falling on one side of my face, and the soft whisper of the breeze carrying the smell of jasmine flowers. That moment felt like home. To walk slowly with your heart means to actually live in your body, not in your head. Most of the time, we are walking, but our mind is planning what to eat for dinner, or replaying an old conversation, or dreaming of something far away. Have you ever walked like that? You reach your house, but you don't remember the path you took. It feels like you were not even there. That is because your body was walking, but your heart was somewhere else. Walking with the heart is different. It is when every step becomes alive. Every step becomes a small prayer. Every step becomes a gentle reminder. I am here. I am alive. I am grateful. Sometimes I like to imagine that each step carries a small seed of peace. When I step on the earth with awareness, I leave that seed behind, and slowly it grows. Even if no one sees it, the earth feels it. And if many people start walking like this, the whole world can be covered with invisible flowers of peace. Isn't that a beautiful thought? There is no hurry in life, even though the world keeps telling us there is. You have to earn this, achieve that, move faster, keep up. But if we always listen to that voice, we will end up at the end of life wondering, where did it all go? The truth is, the flower doesn't bloom faster because we shout at it. The sun doesn't rise quicker because we are impatient. Life has its rhythm, its pace, and when we walk slowly with the heart, we finally start to feel that rhythm, like a hidden song that was always there. Once, a student came to me very frustrated. He said, "Master, I meditate every day. I practice breathing. I do everything you say, but I still feel restless." I told him, "Forget meditation for now. Just go and walk around the pond, but walk slowly, slower than you think is normal. With each step, say in your heart, 'I have arrived, I am home.'" He did not understand, but he tried. The first few steps, he was impatient. His mind shouted, "This is too slow, this is silly." But then something softened. His shoulders dropped. His breath became deeper. And after a while, he came back smiling, not because the world had changed, but because he had changed the way he touched the world. When you walk like this, you don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to wait for the weekend, or for retirement, or for a holiday. Happiness comes to you in that very step. The sound of the birds becomes music. The rustle of the leaves becomes poetry. Even your own heartbeat becomes a friend walking beside you. Try it tomorrow. When you wake up, before you check your phone, before you rush to your work, just put your feet on the ground. Take one slow step and smile. Let your first step of the day be a step with the heart. If you can carry that feeling into your whole day, then every path you take, whether it is to the office, to the market, or even just to the kitchen, will feel like a sacred journey. And remember, walking slowly does not mean wasting time. In fact, it means discovering time. Because when we slow down, suddenly 1 minute feels full, not empty. It is like sipping tea slowly, feeling the warmth, tasting the leaves, instead of just swallowing it without noticing. That is the art of life. So, my friend, Next time when you find yourself rushing, pause for a moment. Breathe, feel your feet, smile, and then take one gentle step, as if the earth itself is waiting to be touched by your love. You don't need to run to meet life. Life is already walking right beside you, waiting for you to notice. The interconnected web, dependent origination. Sit with me a while, my friend, and let us breathe together. In, out, feel the air moving softly through your chest. Life is much like this breath, moving gently, never stopping, yet always returning. And in this movement, there is a secret, a truth so simple that many walk past it without seeing. Nothing exists alone. Everything you see, touch, and feel is connected, woven together like threads in a tapestry, and every thread affects the others. This is what we call dependent origination, the interconnected web of existence. You may have felt it, even if you didn't know its name. Perhaps you have experienced a small kindness. Someone smiled at you, offered a word of encouragement, or helped you when you were lost. That tiny moment can shift your whole day, even your whole week. Later, maybe unknowingly, you pass that kindness on to another, and they, in turn, pass it to someone else. You see, nothing happens in isolation, and the same is true for pain. When someone is hurt, their suffering ripples outward, touching many lives, sometimes in ways we never realize. Think of a spider's web glistening with morning dew. Each droplet sits delicately, and when one thread shakes, all the others tremble. Life is like that web. Your actions, your thoughts, your presence. Each one sends ripples through the world. And yet, it is not something to fear. It is something to honor. It teaches us that every choice matters, every word matters, every moment matters. When we realize this, we stop living carelessly, and we start living with awareness, like a painter gently placing each brushstroke, knowing it will affect the whole painting. There was once a student who came to me very troubled. "Master," he said, "I feel so small in this world. What I do hardly matters. How can one person change anything?" I smiled gently and told him a story. There was a tiny river, no wider than your hand, flowing through a forest. One day it carried a seed to the edge of the forest. That seed grew into a tree, and the tree became a home for birds, shelter for animals, shade for travelers. The river thought it was just water, moving along its path, but it had changed the world. The student listened, and slowly he understood. Even the smallest life touches everything else. This interconnected web is also why Buddhism teaches us compassion. When we see that the world is not separate from us, that every action flows into others, we start to treat life differently. Harming someone is like harming ourselves. Helping someone is like helping ourselves. And the truth is, we cannot truly help just ourselves alone, because our happiness is bound with the happiness of others. The wind blows freely, yet it carries seeds, dust, and fragrance alike. So must our lives move, mindful of what we leave in our path. Sometimes it is hard to see this web. We feel isolated in our suffering or in our joy. We believe we are alone with our pain, our victories, our failures. But a quiet mind sees the threads. A simple breath reminds us that the air you inhale comes from countless trees, fields, and oceans. The water you drink has traveled through rivers, clouds, and mountains before it reached your cup. You are made of everything, and everything is made of you. Nothing stands apart. Consider the lives that touch yours without notice. The farmer who grows your rice, the teacher who taught your friend, the stranger who held the door open. Each one part of a vast network, and each one your silent partner in existence. And just as you are touched, you touch others, sometimes invisibly. A gentle word to a child may stay in their heart for a lifetime. A moment of patience on the road can shift someone's anger into calm. We are all water in the same river, moving together, shaping one another. Even our thoughts are not isolated. A single thought can lead to action, a single action to consequence, a single consequence to ripple across a family, a community, even generations. This is why mindfulness is so precious. When you are aware of your thoughts and your feelings, you begin to navigate the web more carefully. You understand that nothing is trivial. A smile, a frown, a gentle tone, a harsh word, they all move through the threads of life. Let me tell you another story. There was a monk in a distant monastery who spent many years in silence. He rarely spoke, only tending the garden and sweeping the floors. One day, a young visitor asked him, "Master, why do you do so little?" The monk smiled and said, "I do not see it as little. Every leaf I water, every stone I sweep, touches the web of life. The insects that live here, the birds that rest here, the air that moves through these trees, they are all affected. Even the visitor who comes today carries this moment back with him." And indeed, years later, that young visitor remembered the monk's care and taught it to others. The web stretches far beyond what we can see. Understanding the interconnected web also brings peace with change. When a friend leaves, when a job ends, when life takes an unexpected turn, it is tempting to feel isolated and hurt. But the web reminds us that even in loss, connections remain. The lessons, the love, the experiences, all are threads woven into the larger cloth of life. Nothing is ever truly lost. It is transformed, redirected, carried into places unseen. And when we face suffering, remembering this web can help us not feel crushed. Your struggles are not meaningless. They touch others, shape others, and in return, they shape you. Every difficulty, every heartbreak, every moment of uncertainty is like a thread pulled taut, reminding us that life is alive, responsive, and waiting for us to move with awareness. So, my friend, when you wake tomorrow and the world seems small or overwhelming, try to see the threads. Notice the way one smile can change a morning. Notice the way one act of care can ripple far beyond your sight. And notice how your own life is both fragile and powerful. A single thread in the vast, beautiful, interconnected web of existence. Walk gently, move kindly, speak softly, and breathe fully, knowing that your presence matters far more than you think. Embracing change, the river of life. Sit with me a while, my friend, and let us imagine a river flowing quietly beneath the soft morning sun. Do you hear the water moving? It does not pause for anyone. It does not resist the stones or the bends it encounters. It simply flows endlessly, carrying life along with it. This river is like life itself, always moving, always changing, and yet always the same river, always the same life. To understand why everything happens for a reason, we must first learn to embrace this flow, to meet change not with fear, but with gentle acceptance. Many people resist change. They want life to stay as it is, to hold on to the familiar, to control the uncontrollable. But life, my friend, cannot be tamed like a horse or caged like a bird. Change comes whether we like it or not, sometimes quietly, sometimes like a storm. And when it comes, if we resist, we suffer twice. First from the change itself, and then from the struggle against it. But if we learn to move with it, to ride its currents, we find something unexpected: peace. The river does not complain when a branch falls into it. It does not grumble when the rain swells its waters. It simply adapts, carrying everything forward. We too can learn to be like that river. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man who loved a small village where he had grown up. He loved the streets, the old trees, and the faces of his neighbors. One day, his parents told him he must move to a distant city for work. At first, he was furious. Why should I leave the only life I know? How can life be fair? He clutched at the past as if it were a life raft. But slowly, he began to walk into the new city, step by step. He noticed the sounds, the smells, the people, and he began to understand that life had not taken his village away. It had simply given him a new one. Years later, he found that the city had gifts the village never could. Friendships, knowledge, and experiences he never imagined. Change, though frightening, had carried him forward in a direction he could not have chosen himself. Change teaches us humility, my friend. It shows us that we are not in control, that life has rhythms we cannot command. But it also teaches trust, the quiet trust that the river always finds its way to the ocean, that the seasons always return, that the sun always rises even after the darkest night. When you begin to see life this way, you stop clinging so tightly to the past or grasping so desperately at the future. You begin to live in the moment fully, because that is the only place where life is actually flowing. And yet, embracing change does not mean giving up on life, nor does it mean accepting injustice or harm. It means seeing clearly, like water seeing the stones beneath it. It means understanding that some things will fall away, some things will arrive, and everything has a reason, even if that reason is hidden from us for a long time. Sometimes the reason reveals itself immediately, sometimes decades later, like a seed buried under snow that only blooms when spring comes. I remember a student who had lost everything in a fire, his home, his possessions, and even his little shop. He came to me, angry, bitter, and broken. "Why did this happen to me?" he asked. I did not offer a quick answer. Instead, I asked him to help me clean the temple garden. Day by day, he lifted stones, swept leaves, and watered the plants. Slowly, his anger softened. Slowly, he began to notice how life was still moving, how small joys, like the scent of the jasmine, the touch of soil, the laughter of children, were still there. Years later, he opened a new shop, one even better than the one he had lost, and he carried the lesson of change in his heart. That sometimes loss is the river steering us towards something we could never have imagined. Change also teaches patience. We want answers, we want results, we want life to make sense now. But the river reminds us that everything comes in its own time. A tree does not bloom before spring. A fruit does not ripen before its season. And our experiences, our pain, our growth, they do not rush either. If you can wait with awareness, if you can walk gently with the flow, you will notice that the river brings not just challenges, but also guidance, opportunities, and gifts, often disguised as difficulties. Sometimes, change is sudden and dramatic, like a flood or a storm. Other times, it is quiet and subtle, like a leaf drifting downstream. Both can teach us, both can guide us, both can reveal reasons that were invisible before. A broken relationship may teach you your own heart. A lost job may teach you hidden strengths. A long illness may reveal the value of compassion and care. Nothing happens randomly, even when we cannot see the thread connecting the events. The river of life carries everything, weaving it together into a tapestry that we may only understand when we look back. When we learn to embrace change, we begin to notice the beauty in impermanence. We notice that every season has its own gifts, that every moment has its own flavor. The cherry blossoms fall, but their falling is part of their beauty. The river swells and recedes, but every drop is precious. We too are like the river and the blossoms, ever-changing, ever-moving, yet full of meaning. So, my friend, the next time life shifts beneath your feet, when someone leaves, when work ends, when your body changes, when the world around you feels different, do not resist. Take a deep breath, feel the ground beneath your feet, and say gently, I am here, I am flowing, I am part of this river. Walk with the change, feel it, learn from it, and trust that every twist and turn has a reason, even if that reason is hidden. In the river of life, nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless. Every current, every ripple, every stone, every drop of water contributes to the shape of the river, to the journey it carries. And when we live like this, when we embrace change fully, with awareness and patience, we discover that even the most difficult moments are teachers, guiding us to a place we could never have reached otherwise. The wisdom of patience, waiting for life's lessons. Come, sit with me for a while, my friend, and let us breathe together. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat. Life often rushes past us, and we think that speed will bring understanding, that action will bring clarity, that moving forward quickly will deliver answers. But patience, true patience, is not waiting idly. It is a quiet awareness that the world has its own rhythm, and that every event, every encounter, every challenge arrives exactly when it is meant to. Many people ask me, Master, why do I feel stuck? Why does life not give me what I want right now? And I smile, because I know their heart is like a young river, eager to flow, impatient to reach the ocean. I tell them, the river does not worry about the rocks in its path. It flows around them, over them, and with time, it reaches its destination. Your life is the same. Every delay, every struggle, every pause is teaching you something you cannot learn by rushing. Patience is often misunderstood. We think it is about passivity, about giving up or accepting less than we deserve. But real patience is active. It is a mindfulness that notices the world, that listens deeply, that observes without judgment. When we are patient, we see the subtle patterns of life that are invisible to hurried eyes. We notice the lessons hidden in small moments. A stranger's kindness, the gentle shift of a season, the way our own mind moves like clouds across the sky. Patience allows us to see that even suffering carries a quiet purpose. I remember a student who was eager to learn meditation. Master, he said, I have practiced for weeks, but I feel nothing. Am I doing it wrong? I asked him to sit with me by the pond, where the lotus flowers floated silently. I said, do you see these flowers? Do they bloom quickly, or do they wait for the right moment? If you pull them out of the water before their time, will they bloom? Meditation is like that. You cannot force insight or peace. You can only be present, patient, and let the mind open when it is ready. He stayed day after day, observing the stillness of the pond, and slowly, like the lotus, his heart began to bloom. Patience teaches us humility. It reminds us that we are not the masters of time, that the universe does not bend to our wishes, and that life unfolds according to its own wisdom. How often have we wanted something, tried desperately to make it happen, and then been disappointed, and yet later, we discover that the delay was a blessing. Perhaps we were not ready, perhaps the timing was wrong, or perhaps a better opportunity awaited. Every delay, every waiting period, is like the earth quietly preparing seeds beneath the soil, unseen but alive, ready to blossom when the season comes. And patience is not only for the future, but for the present. When we rush, we miss the details of life. The warmth of sunlight on our face, the laughter of children playing, the fragrance of jasmine in the evening breeze. Every moment carries its own lessons, And if we do not pause, if we do not wait, we pass them by. Life does not belong to those who hurry, but to those who watch, who listen, who breathe deeply and accept the rhythm of things. There was once an elder in a distant village who told me, "Master, I have lived long, but I still learn every day. Patience is my teacher. When I am impatient, I stumble. When I wait, I see." I asked him how he practiced patience. He smiled and said, "Every morning, I sweep the courtyard. I do it slowly, feeling each movement, noticing the dust, the leaves, the sunlight. The courtyard teaches me patience. Life teaches me patience. Without it, I would never understand the reasons for things. Patience is also a teacher of resilience. When storms come, as they always do, when relationships change, when loss visits, when illness or disappointment strikes, patience is the anchor that holds us steady. It does not mean we are unmoved. We feel, we grieve, we struggle, but we do not collapse. We wait with courage, and in waiting, we discover strength we never knew we had. The river, again, teaches this. It bends but does not break. It flows but does not lose its course. Think of a farmer planting rice. He does not sow seeds today and harvest tomorrow. He waters them, tends the soil, watches the skies, and waits. He knows that growth cannot be hurried, that the seeds will emerge in their own time. So too with life. The experiences, the lessons, the growth that we desire cannot be forced. They arrive only when we are ready to receive them. Only when our hearts have ripened like the soil prepared to hold the seed. Patience also opens the heart. When we rush, we are often blind to others. We ignore the pain of a friend, the beauty in a stranger's gesture, the subtle shifts in the world around us. But when we wait, when we breathe, when we observe, our heart softens. Compassion grows naturally. Understanding deepens. We begin to see that everything has its own timing, that everyone carries their own pace, and that judging the speed of life only creates suffering. Sometimes patience is tested in silence. We wait for answers that do not come, for signs that never appear, for people who do not return. In those moments, we might feel despair. But the Zen way teaches us that even waiting is a practice. Even sitting quietly, even breathing, even noticing the passing clouds, is a way to cultivate the heart. In the space of waiting, life whispers its wisdom softly. And if we listen, we hear the reasons behind things, even those we cannot yet understand. Life's lessons unfold gradually, like petals of a flower. At first, we only see the outer layer, the bright colors, the form. But as we watch, as we touch gently, as we breathe and wait, we begin to notice the delicate veins, the subtle fragrance, the strength in the stem. Patience allows us to uncover depth where before there was only surface. It teaches us that meaning is not always immediate, that clarity arrives slowly, and that wisdom grows quietly, like moss on a stone, unnoticed but enduring. So, my friend, remember this when you feel frustrated, when life seems slow, when answers evade you. Breathe. Sit quietly. Observe. Wait. Even in waiting, you are moving forward. Even in stillness, you are learning. Every experience has its reason, and every moment of patience is a step toward understanding that reason. Life is not a race. It is a long, flowing river, and in patience, we find the deepest treasures hidden in its waters. Letting go, the art of releasing. Sit with me a moment, my friend, and take a deep breath. In out. Feel the rhythm of life in your chest, soft and steady. So often, we carry things that weigh us down. Old regrets, anger, fear, sadness, even small irritations that pile up over time. We clutch them tightly, thinking that holding on will somehow protect us or give us control. But the truth is, the tighter we hold, the heavier life becomes. Letting go is not losing something. It is freeing yourself to truly live. Many people misunderstand letting go. They think it is forgetting, ignoring, or giving up. But real letting go is active, not passive. It is a conscious choice to release what no longer serves you, to unclench your heart, to breathe without burden. When we release, we make space for life to enter. Space for joy, peace, love, and understanding. Holding on tightly to the past, to pain, to expectations, is like trying to hold water in your hand. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. I remember a young monk who came to me, burdened with anger toward his brother. "Master," he said, "he has wronged me many times. I cannot forgive him. How can I live with this?" I asked him to sit by the river and watch the water flow. "Do you see the water?" I said. "Does it hold the fallen leaves and twigs tightly? Does it get angry at the stones? No, it flows, carrying everything gently, without clinging. This is how your heart must move. You do not forget, but you release. You do not resist, but you flow." He sat for days, quietly observing, and slowly his heart began to soften, like the river shaping stones with gentle persistence. Letting go also teaches trust. We live in a world that constantly changes. People leave, opportunities fade, health declines, and situations shift. If we cling to permanence, we set ourselves up for suffering. But when we let go, we acknowledge life's natural flow. We trust that the universe is moving, that events have reasons we may not yet see, and that holding on tightly does not change the course of life. Instead, patience, release, and acceptance allow us to move gracefully through its currents. Consider a tree in autumn. It does not resist the falling of its leaves. Each leaf drops when the time is right, allowing the tree to rest and prepare for new growth. We too must shed what no longer nourishes us. Old grudges, past mistakes, unnecessary worries. They are like leaves clinging to branches too long. When we let them fall, we feel lighter, freer, and ready to grow anew. Letting go is the preparation for a richer, more meaningful life. There is also beauty in letting go of control. Many of us are attached to how things should be, how people should act, how life should unfold, how the future should appear. But life rarely follows our expectations. When we release the need to control, we open ourselves to unexpected gifts. A change of plan, a chance meeting, a sudden opportunity. All may appear when we let go of rigid plans. Life, like water, often moves in mysterious and beneficial ways when we allow it to. Sometimes letting go is hard because we tie our identity to what we hold. We say, "This is who I am. This is what defines me." But identity is not found in possessions, in grudges, or in titles. True self is in the awareness that notices the clinging and chooses release. It is in the heart that opens, even when it is afraid. It is in the breath that flows freely, unbound, undemanding, accepting life as it is. I once had a student who feared losing his job. He held on to every small task, every email, every responsibility, thinking that if he relaxed, everything would collapse. But one day, he faced a layoff. At first, panic and grief consumed him. Then he remembered our discussions of letting go. Slowly, he breathed, released fear, and accepted what had come. Within months, he discovered work that was more meaningful, more fulfilling, and more aligned with his heart than he could have imagined. Letting go, he realized, was not losing. It was receiving life in its full richness. Letting go also applies to expectations of others. We may hope for love, understanding, or validation from family, friends, or partners. When these hopes are unmet, we suffer. But when we release expectations, we see people as they are, not as we wish them to be. We respond with compassion, not disappointment. We connect with reality, not illusion. And in that space, genuine love and understanding can grow. Even our attachment to ideas, beliefs, and past identities can be gently released. Life is a journey, not a static picture. When we cling to old concepts, we limit growth, confine experience, and invite frustration. Letting go allows us to embrace new perspectives, learn from mistakes, and move with awareness. It is not betrayal of self. It is expansion of self, like a sky growing wider when clouds drift away. And yet, letting go is not a one-time act. It is a daily practice, a gentle repetition. Each morning we breathe and choose release. Each moment, we notice our clinging and choose freedom. Each thought, we observe and let it pass. The mind will resist, the heart will hesitate, but with patient awareness, the release becomes natural, effortless, and ultimately liberating. Think of a stream flowing through a forest. It carries leaves, twigs, small stones. It does not cling to any of them. It moves, and in moving, it nourishes the earth, the trees, the animals, and eventually reaches the ocean. So too must we move through life, releasing what we cannot hold, embracing what we can, and flowing toward the vastness of understanding. The art of letting go also allows gratitude to emerge. When we stop grasping at everything, we begin to notice what is already here. The morning sun, the cool breeze, the kindness of strangers, the laughter of children. These simple gifts shine more brightly when the mind is not cluttered with attachment. Freedom and gratitude walk hand in hand, and the heart begins to feel a deep peace. So, my friend, practice release. Begin with small things. A grudge, a fear, a worry that has followed you like a shadow. Breathe, feel it, acknowledge it, and then, with gentle intention, let it drift away like a leaf on the river. Notice how much lighter your heart becomes. Slowly, day by day, let go of the burdens you have carried for years. Allow your heart to float, to expand, to live freely. Remember, letting go is not absence, it is presence. It is not giving up, it is opening up. Every moment of release teaches the heart to trust, teaches the soul to breathe, and teaches life to flow naturally. When we master the art of letting go, we touch the reason behind every event, every encounter, and every challenge. We discover that even loss, even pain, even change is part of a larger harmony, guiding us toward peace, understanding, and love. Finding peace in uncertainty, the calm within the storm. Come, sit with me a while, my friend, and let us talk about uncertainty. Life is full of it, isn't it? We wake up expecting the sun to rise, yet sometimes clouds cover it. We plan our days, our work, our relationships, but the world rarely follows our scripts. And when things shift, when the unexpected arrives, we often feel fear, doubt, and discomfort. But in the heart of uncertainty, there is a place of calm, a quiet sanctuary that we can always return to if we learn to listen. Many people spend their lives trying to control every outcome, as if by grasping tightly they can hold the world still. But the truth is, we are not the masters of the universe. The wind blows, the rain falls, friends come and go, and sometimes the earth beneath our feet seems to tremble. Yet even in this, there is a rhythm, a harmony, if only we can slow down enough to notice it. Uncertainty is not chaos. It is life teaching us, showing us the depth and richness of each moment. Let me share a story. A young man once came to me, trembling with fear. "Master," he said, "I do not know what will happen next in my life. My work is unstable. My family depends on me, and I feel lost. How can I find peace when everything is uncertain?" I asked him to sit by the river and watch the water flowing over rocks, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes clear, sometimes muddied. I said, "Do you see the river? It does not know what will lie around the next bend. It does not worry about obstacles or storms. Yet it moves with grace, flowing, changing, yet always present. You too can learn to be like the river." Slowly, over weeks and months, he began to notice that even when his world felt unstable, there was a quiet place within where fear could not reach. A calm that existed not because life was safe, but because he allowed it to be. Uncertainty is like the wind. It shakes the branches of our lives, it rattles the windows of our minds, and sometimes it seems to knock us off our feet. But if we resist, we suffer more. If we bend, if we sway with it, we find strength we did not know we had. There is a Zen saying, "Do not seek to calm the storm, calm yourself." The storms will come, as they always do, but our hearts can remain steady if we cultivate awareness and trust. I remember a student who feared losing a loved one. Each day, he worried. What if illness takes them? What if something happens? His mind was a storm of endless questions and anxieties. I asked him to practice breathing and noticing the present. The warmth of a hand, the smile of the morning sun, the gentle sound of birds. Slowly, he learned to anchor himself in what was real, what was here, instead of fearing what might come. The uncertainty remained, yes, but his heart was no longer consumed by it. He discovered that peace does not depend on certainty. It depends on presence. Uncertainty also teaches us humility. We realize that we do not control the world, and that life is larger than our plans, larger than our fears. This recognition can feel frightening at first, but it also brings freedom. When we accept that we do not know what comes next, we can release the tight grip of expectation and open our hearts to possibilities we never imagined. Doors we thought closed may open, paths we feared may reveal beauty, and challenges may become lessons instead of burdens. Consider a tree in the storm. Its roots hold firmly in the earth, yet its branches sway with the wind. It does not resist, it does not fight. It moves with the storm, yet remains deeply grounded. Life is like that tree. Uncertainty shakes us, challenges us, and tests us. But when our hearts are rooted in awareness, in trust, in the flow of life, we do not break. We bend, we adapt, we continue, and in doing so, we discover strength, resilience, and even joy. There is also a lesson in impermanence hidden within uncertainty. We cannot know what tomorrow brings, and yet, every moment is a gift precisely because it is fleeting. The sun may shine, the river may sparkle, the laughter of children may fill the air. All are here now, and all are precious because they will not last forever. When we embrace uncertainty, we begin to treasure the present, not as a guarantee, but as a miracle. I once guided a student through the fear of losing his career. He was anxious, imagining the worst at every turn. I asked him to notice the clouds in the sky, each one unique, each one moving, each one changing. "Do the clouds cling to the sky?" I asked. "No," he said. "They move, they drift, they change." I said, "Your life is like the clouds. Each challenge, each change, each uncertainty moves through you. Do not cling. Observe. Flow." In time, he began to see that even if work shifted, Even if circumstances changed, he could remain steady, mindful, and calm. Trust is the companion of peace in uncertainty. Trust in the flow of life. Trust in your own capacity to respond. Trust in the unseen thread connecting each event. When we trust, we stop resisting. We stop wasting energy in fear and anxiety. We begin to notice subtle signs, small gifts, and lessons hidden in every situation. Uncertainty ceases to be a threat. It becomes a teacher, a guide, a gentle nudge toward growth and wisdom. Sometimes uncertainty leads to profound creativity. When we do not know what comes next, our minds expand to imagine, to explore, to create new paths. We become flexible, adaptive, and inventive. We discover strength in our hearts we did not know existed, courage in our spirit we had never needed before, and joy in moments we would have overlooked had everything been predictable. Even in moments of personal loss or global turmoil, the heart can remain calm. Breathing, noticing, and accepting the present allows us to carry peace within. Even when the external world shifts, uncertainty will always arrive, my friend. It is the river, the wind, the storm, but we can choose how to meet it. With resistance, it brings suffering. With acceptance, it brings insight and grace. Life's uncertainties are like the stars in the night sky. We cannot reach each one, and we cannot predict which will shine the brightest. Yet we can sit quietly beneath them, in awe and peace. The unknown is not a prison. It is a canvas, a space of infinite possibilities where life continues to unfold, with lessons, joys, and opportunities hidden in its folds. So, my friend, when the storm comes, when the path ahead is unclear, breathe. Notice the moment. Let the mind rest in the present. Trust that each step, each choice, each encounter has a reason, even if that reason is hidden for now. Like a river flowing through mountains, like clouds drifting across the sky, like stars shining unseen behind clouds, life moves with purpose. And in that movement, in the midst of uncertainty, we can find peace, deep, steady, and enduring. Embracing change, the dance of life. Come, sit with me, and let us speak quietly about change. You know, change is one of those things that visits us whether we invite it or not. It arrives softly like a breeze, or suddenly like a storm. Sometimes it brings joy, sometimes pain, but it always comes. Many people fear it, resist it, or grieve its arrival, but in truth, change is not an enemy. It is life itself, unfolding in its natural rhythm. To live fully, we must learn to embrace it, to move with it, and to find the beauty hidden in its waves. I remember a young student who came to me trembling. "Master," he said, "my life is changing so fast, I feel like I am losing myself. My friends are moving away. My family expects things I cannot give, and my work is nothing like I imagined. How can I stand when everything shifts beneath me?" I looked at him and smiled gently. "Do you see the river over there?" I asked. "It never flows the same way twice. It changes its course around rocks, bends, and trees. Sometimes it is calm, sometimes wild, yet it continues. You are like that river. You do not stop because the path changes. You adapt, you flow, and in flowing, you find your strength." Many people do not realize that change is a teacher. It teaches patience, flexibility, and trust. When we cling to what was, we suffer, because life cannot remain the same. But when we open our hearts to change, we discover that each shift, each unexpected turn, carries lessons and opportunities. Like a tree shedding old leaves to grow new ones, we too must let go of old ways, old habits, and old fears to allow life to unfold fully. I once had a student who had lost his home in a flood. At first, he was angry, hopeless and full of despair. He could not see beyond the ruins. I asked him to help me plant a new tree in the open field near the river. We dug, we planted, and I asked him to watch the tree grow. "See," I said, "the river may destroy what was, but it also nourishes what is coming. Change may feel like loss, but it is also creation. Life moves, and so must you." Slowly, he began to understand. He found new ways to live, new work, new friends, and even a deeper joy than before the flood. Change had transformed him, and he had learned to dance with it rather than fight it. Change also asks us to trust ourselves. Often, we fear it because we doubt our own ability to adapt. We imagine that if the world shifts, we will crumble. But in truth, we are far more resilient than we think. Life throws challenges at us not to break us, but to reveal our hidden strength. Each change, no matter how frightening, is a chance to discover courage, patience, and wisdom we did not know existed. Consider the seasons. Winter comes, then spring, then summer, then autumn. Each brings its own gifts, each its own challenges. Yet the earth does not resist. It moves with the rhythm, adapting, growing, shedding, blooming. So, too, must we. Our lives are seasons, constantly shifting, and embracing change allows us to experience their fullness rather than clinging to one moment or resisting another. Even our relationships change. Friends move, families grow older, children leave home, and love shifts. Many suffer because they try to keep relationships frozen in time, expecting people to stay the same. But the heart, like water, must flow. To embrace change in relationships is to allow people to be themselves, to allow life to unfold naturally. In doing so, our connections deepen because they are not bound by expectation. They are free, alive, and real. Change is also intimately tied to impermanence. Nothing in life stays the same. Our bodies age, our possessions fade, our achievements pass, and even our memories shift. When we accept impermanence, we can embrace change without fear. We see that life is a series of moments, each precious precisely because it is temporary. To hold tightly to what will not last is suffering. To move with what is freedom. I once guided a young monk who was afraid of leaving the monastery to serve in the village. He was comfortable, safe, surrounded by friends and routine. But life called him beyond the walls he knew. He feared failure, rejection, and loss. I told him, comfort is a teacher, yes, but change is a master. To grow, to understand life fully, you must step into the unknown. Your heart will guide you if you listen. And even if the path is uncertain, your steps will teach you. Slowly, with patience and courage, he moved into the village, and his heart opened in ways the monastery walls could never have allowed. Change also teaches humility. We realize that we are not the center of the universe. We cannot control everything, and the more we try, the more we suffer. Life has its own flow, and the more we align with it rather than resist, the more ease and joy we find. This is not resignation, it is wisdom. It is the calm acceptance that the river may change course, but it will always move forward. Sometimes change feels like loss, and sometimes it feels like a gift. Often, it is both at once. A job lost may lead to a vocation found. A home left behind may open the heart to a new community. A relationship ended may allow love to grow in unexpected ways. To resist change is to blind ourselves to the hidden gifts it carries. To embrace it is to participate fully in the unfolding miracle of life. Even small changes are teachers. A missed train, a delayed appointment, a friend moving away, a new season of life. Each moment asks us to adapt, to notice, to release what we cannot hold. Our minds often cling to comfort, to predictability, to routine. Yet life thrives in flexibility. Each shift, no matter how minor, is a chance to practice grace, patience, and mindfulness. I remember a student who feared technology changing her work. She resisted, worried she would be left behind. But as she engaged with it slowly, step by step, she discovered tools that allowed her to create more, connect more, and express herself more fully. Change, when met with curiosity rather than fear, becomes a doorway, not a wall. Change is also a teacher of gratitude. When we see that moments, people, and experiences are fleeting, we treasure them more. We learn to say, "This is precious, this is now," and our hearts fill with appreciation rather than regret. Life becomes lighter, fuller, richer. And remember, embracing change is not passive acceptance. It is active engagement. We notice, we respond, we adapt. We breathe with life rather than against it. We see opportunities, face challenges, and move forward with awareness. Each step, even uncertain, is a dance with existence itself. Think of a mountain path. Rocks shift, streams change course, the weather turns unexpectedly. The traveler who moves with awareness does not fall. She adapts, observes, rests when needed, and continues. Life is the same. Change will arrive. How we move with it determines whether we stumble or dance. So, my friend, embrace change. Let it teach you patience. Let it teach you humility. Let it open your heart to the richness of each moment. See it not as threat, but as a companion guiding you toward understanding, freedom, and joy. In the dance of life, those who move gracefully with change discover the depth of their spirit and the wonder of existence itself. The power of presence, living in the moment. Come, sit with me a while, my friend, and let us speak about presence. You know, so many people live as if life is always somewhere else. They worry about the future, regret the past, or chase illusions of what should be. And yet they forget the precious gift right in front of them, the now. I tell you, the present moment is where life truly happens. It is where joy, peace, and understanding quietly reside, waiting for us to notice, waiting for us to breathe and simply be. I remember a young student who came to me, restless and full of questions. "Master," he said, "I cannot find happiness. I try to plan my life, to make everything perfect, yet I feel empty. Why?" I asked him to walk with me through the garden. We stopped by the lotus pond, watching the water ripple softly as the wind kissed the leaves. I said, "Do you hear the water? Do you see the sunlight dancing on its surface? Right now, this is life. Not tomorrow, not yesterday. This very moment is all there ever is. If you miss it, you miss life itself." Presence is simple, yet so rarely practiced. We think we are present, yet our minds drift to worries, fears, and stories we tell ourselves. We carry burdens that belong to no one but our imagination, and in doing so, we overlook the simple beauty of what is here, right now. A bird sings. A child laughs. The wind brushes your face. Life whispers in these small moments, and if we are not present, we cannot hear. I once guided a student who was consumed by anxiety. He worried about every decision, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of what others would think. I asked him to sit silently by the river, to breathe, and to notice the current. At first, his mind raced, darting from thought to thought. Slowly, as he focused on the flow of the water, the sounds around him, the feeling of his breath, he began to calm. He realized that life was always moving, and yet he could choose to anchor himself in the present. The fear was still there, yes, but it no longer controlled him. Presence is not about ignoring the past or future. It is not denial. It is awareness. It is noticing what is happening within and around you without judgment, without clinging, without resistance. When we practice presence, even pain can be experienced with grace. Even fear can be softened by attention, and even sorrow can become a teacher. We learn to see life as it is, not as we wish it to be. I remember another student, a woman burdened by her work, her family, and endless obligations. She rushed from one task to another, never stopping. I asked her to notice her hands, to feel their warmth, the pulse of life within them, and to breathe slowly. She laughed at first, thinking it too simple to matter. But over days, weeks, and months, she discovered that by grounding herself in small moments, washing dishes, walking to the market, sipping tea, her mind softened, her heart opened, and life became lighter. Presence is not grand gestures. It is noticing the small, the ordinary, and discovering their extraordinary richness. Being present also teaches patience. When we live in the now, we see that things unfold in their own time. A flower blooms when it is ready. A river finds its path when it is patient. We too learn that rushing, forcing, or worrying cannot hasten what must unfold naturally. By being present, we learn to trust the rhythm of life, to surrender our obsession with control, and to flow gently with what is. Presence reveals the interconnectedness of all things. When we truly see, we notice the tree, the earth, the sun, and the wind. We see that our breath is part of the same air that moves the leaves. Our heartbeat echoes the rhythm of the earth. Life is not separate. It is a web of experiences, sensations, and moments, all waiting to be noticed. To be present is to step into this web with awareness, to feel its depth, and to find our place within it. Even in suffering, presence can bring comfort. A student once came to me grieving a loss. He could not eat, sleep, or focus. I asked him to breathe, to notice the rise and fall of his chest, the gentle sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight on his skin. At first, it seemed pointless, but slowly, he discovered that even in sorrow, life continued in small, gentle ways. Presence does not erase pain, but it allows us to experience it fully, to learn from it, and to move through it without being consumed. Presence also dissolves the illusions of comparison. We often measure ourselves against others, thinking our lives should look a certain way. We forget that each path is unique, each moment different. When we live in the now, we see our life without judgment. We notice its beauty, its struggles, its gifts. Comparison fades, and we find contentment simply by being here, as we are. I recall guiding a young man who constantly compared himself to a successful friend. He felt unworthy, small, and frustrated. I asked him to notice his breath, to observe his surroundings, to feel the moment. Slowly, he realized that his journey was his own, that life was not a race, and that by focusing on the present, he could experience satisfaction and joy rather than longing and envy. Presence freed him from the chains of comparison. Presence is also deeply creative. When we notice, we see opportunities, solutions, and ideas that we missed while our minds were distracted. A painter notices the light. A musician hears subtle rhythms. A writer feels the texture of words. Life itself becomes a canvas, and by being present, we participate in its creation with attention, awareness, and grace. I once taught a student to notice the ordinary. The smell of rain, the sound of leaves, the warmth of sunlight. At first, he thought it trivial, but slowly he began to see the beauty in everything. Even the cracks in the pavement, even the sounds of the city, even the fatigue of the body became part of the richness of being. Presence transforms life into a living meditation, a flowing awareness where joy and peace are naturally found. Presence deepens relationships. When we are fully with someone, listening, seeing, feeling, without distraction, we create connection. Words become more meaningful, gestures more heartfelt, and love more profound. Life is not a series of tasks, but a series of shared moments, and presence allows us to honor them. Even in action, presence matters. Washing dishes, walking, working, speaking. Every act can be a meditation when done with awareness. The Zen Master does not separate life from practice. Every moment is an opportunity to be awake, to notice, to be fully here. Presence is not a technique. It is living fully, breathing fully, and allowing life to reveal itself without resistance. I remember a student who feared boredom and silence. He sought constant entertainment, conversation, and distraction. I asked him to sit by the river, to breathe, and to notice the clouds. At first he squirmed, restless and impatient. But slowly, he discovered that stillness and silence held their own magic. Thoughts arose, drifted, and dissolved. He found peace not in action or distraction, but in simple presence, and he carried that peace into every part of life. Presence also teaches humility. When we notice the vastness of life, the sky, the earth, the wind, the people, we realize our smallness, yet we also discover our belonging. We are part of something larger, and being present allows us to feel that connection, to live without arrogance, to act with compassion and awareness. Sometimes, presence requires courage. To stop, to notice, to feel deeply can be uncomfortable. We may encounter thoughts, emotions, or truths we have long ignored. But the reward is profound. We meet life as it is. We meet ourselves as we are. And we open to the depth, the beauty, and the mystery of existence. And so, my friend, as we move through life, remember this. Presence is the doorway to peace, joy, wisdom, and love. Do not chase the past. Do not worry about the future. The present moment is all we ever truly have. Breathe, notice, feel, and be fully here. Life unfolds in each moment. And in each moment, we can find the quiet, steady, heart-touching wonder that is always waiting for us. Before we continue our journey, I would like to gently remind you, there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.3% subscribe. If these words touch your heart, if they bring even a little peace or understanding, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Wisdom Woven. Let others also find these moments of presence and heartful guidance. Embracing impermanence, the dance of change. Ah, my friend, come closer, and let us speak about something so simple, yet so profound, impermanence. You know, life is always moving, always changing, like the wind that bends the trees or the river that never stops flowing. Yet we cling, we hold on, we grasp at moments, people, feelings, as if they could stay forever. And in that grasping, we suffer. But when we learn to embrace change, to see impermanence not as a loss but as a teacher, life becomes lighter, freer, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. I recall a young student, eyes full of fear, coming to me one rainy afternoon. He said, "Master, I can't bear losing anything. I feel everything I love slipping away, and I don't know how to live." I led him to a small pond where fallen leaves floated on the water. "Do you see these leaves?" I asked. They lived fully on their tree, and now they drift. They do not resist. They do not complain. And in this movement, they are still beautiful, still complete. So it is with all things, all people, all moments. Nothing is permanent, yet nothing is ever truly lost. Impermanence is not to be feared. It is a gentle reminder that life is alive, that moments are precious, and that we must notice, we must breathe, we must truly live. When a flower blooms, it will fade. When a child laughs, that laughter will not stay in the same way. Even our own hearts change, sometimes without our permission, and yet there is beauty in this dance. To resist it is to fight the river. To embrace it is to float gracefully, to move with life instead of against it. I remember guiding a woman who mourned the passing of her beloved pet. Each day she sat alone, remembering, crying, wishing it could have been different. I asked her to remember the times of joy, the warmth, the gentle presence of her friend. She resisted at first, clinging to pain, thinking that by holding tightly, she could keep her companion. Slowly, as she allowed herself to feel both joy and grief, she realized that impermanence had not stolen love. It had transformed it, deepened it, and left a space for gratitude, for memory, and for acceptance. Impermanence teaches us that nothing belongs to us in the way we think it does. People come, people go. Opportunities appear, disappear. Feelings rise, fade, and shift. When we cling, we suffer. When we let go, we experience freedom. I once saw a student, desperate to keep his career and status, fearing the loss of prestige and recognition. I asked him to close his eyes and breathe, to notice the rise and fall of his chest, to feel the world moving around him. Slowly, he understood that life could shift and change, yet his heart, his presence, his awareness, these remained. Loss was not an end, but a door to understanding. Change is natural, like the seasons. Winter does not resist summer. Autumn does not cling to spring. Each moment has its place, its purpose. We too can learn to dance with impermanence, to feel the rhythm of life without fear. I remember a student who dreaded aging, seeing wrinkles as the enemy, youth as the only treasure. I told him, "See the lines on your hands. They tell stories. They tell of living, of loving, of struggling, of learning. Impermanence does not take from you. It marks your journey. Celebrate it, honor it, and do not mourn what cannot remain, for it has already given you its gift." We often fear change because it asks us to release control. We plan, we strategize, we try to anchor ourselves, yet the river flows, no matter what. When we resist, we are tossed by waves of frustration, anxiety, and sorrow. When we accept, we float with grace. Impermanence is the teacher of patience, the teacher of humility, and the teacher of wonder. In every ending, there is a beginning. In every loss, there is a lesson. In every moment that passes, there is the gift of life fully felt. I remember a child who asked me, "Master, why do things always end?" I smiled and said, "Because if they did not, you would never notice them. If they stayed, you would never appreciate their beauty. Life's fleeting nature makes it precious, makes it meaningful, makes it worth your attention." She looked at me with wide eyes, slowly understanding that the brevity of a moment did not diminish its value. In fact, it enhanced it. Impermanence also teaches us compassion. When we see that others too are subject to change, to loss, to struggle, we soften. We stop judging so harshly. We offer kindness more freely. I once guided a student who carried anger toward a sibling who had hurt him. I asked him to consider impermanence, not to excuse, not to forget, but to understand that both he and his sibling were constantly changing, learning, and evolving. Slowly, he felt his heart soften, understanding that anger was just a temporary companion, and love, patience, and forgiveness could take its place if he allowed them. Even our own thoughts are impermanent. Worries, fears, desires. They come and go like clouds. Yet we often cling, believing them to be truths, permanent realities. Awareness of impermanence allows us to see thoughts as visitors, not masters. I often tell students, do not fight your mind, do not worship it blindly. Notice it, let it pass, and do not be entangled. Just as seasons change, so do thoughts. And just as you do not cling to winter or summer, do not cling to your thinking. Flow with it, and you will be free. Life's beauty is magnified by impermanence. A sunset is radiant because it will vanish. A child's laugh is treasured because it is fleeting. Moments of peace, of love, of joy, of insight. They shine brightly precisely because they are not permanent. When we hold on to them too tightly, we miss the essence. But when we release, when we embrace the dance of change, we feel life in its full depth. I remember a student struggling with a relationship that ended. He wanted to hold on, to fix what could not be fixed. I asked him to sit quietly, to feel the emptiness, to notice the sensations of loss, of love, of longing. Slowly, he saw that impermanence had not destroyed his feelings. It had transformed them. Gratitude emerged, and with it, a deeper understanding of life's ebb and flow. Impermanence also teaches creativity. When we see that nothing is fixed, that every moment can change, we find freedom to act, to create, to express. A painter knows the brush will smear, the color will blend, the form will evolve. A writer knows the words will change, the ideas will shift. And we too, in our daily life, learn to flow, to adapt, to embrace the possibilities of change. Even in suffering, impermanence brings hope. Pain is never permanent. Grief, fear, sadness, they rise and they fall. I often tell students, do not be afraid of pain. It will pass. Notice it, feel it, and allow it to move through you. And when it does, you will be renewed, lighter, wiser. And so, my friend, as we walk through life, remember this: nothing stays and everything moves. Embrace change. Notice its rhythm. Learn from it, flow with it, and allow your heart to open to life fully. In impermanence, there is wisdom, there is freedom, there is love, there is the quiet joy of living each moment fully, knowing it will never come again in quite the same way. The quiet power of acceptance. Ah, my dear friend, come sit with me for a while, and let us speak of something very simple, yet so profound: acceptance. Many people believe acceptance means giving up, surrendering to life with a heavy heart, or resigning themselves to circumstances. But true acceptance, the kind that brings peace, is something gentle, something that touches the soul softly, like morning sunlight through the leaves. It is not about weakness. It is about understanding, seeing clearly, and letting life move without unnecessary resistance. I remember a young woman who came to me, her eyes full of worry, her steps hurried, as if the world was moving too fast and she was behind. She said, "Master, I can't accept what's happening in my life. Everything seems unfair. Nothing goes my way. I feel stuck and angry." I smiled gently. "Come walk with me," I said. We went to the garden, where the flowers were blooming, some perfectly, some slightly wilted, some just beginning. "See this," I said. "Each flower lives its own time, in its own way. It does not struggle to be like the others, and yet it is beautiful. This is acceptance, not of perfection, but of reality. Life blooms imperfectly, and we must notice, breathe, and allow it. Acceptance does not mean we do not care, or that we stop trying. It means we see things clearly as they are. Sometimes We suffer because we fight reality. We fight ourselves, or we fight the path that is unfolding. A student once asked me, "Master, how do I accept something that hurts me deeply?" I told him, "Sit quietly. Feel the pain. Do not push it away. Do not scream at it. Notice it as if it were a cloud passing in the sky. When you stop fighting, the weight begins to lift. Acceptance is the first step to freedom." I have seen people wrestle with situations they cannot change. A lost job, a failing relationship, a missed opportunity. And in their struggle, their hearts ache more. Yet, when they learn to accept, to breathe into the moment, they find clarity. Not all answers come immediately, and not all outcomes are within our hands. But peace begins when resistance ends. I remember a man who spent years trying to control his family's decisions, angry when they chose differently than he wished. Slowly, he learned to step back, to trust the flow of life. And in that space, he saw love return, not forced, not controlled, but free and alive. Acceptance is also about understanding impermanence, for nothing stays the same. A child cries today, but tomorrow they laugh. A storm shakes the trees, but the sun returns. Our own hearts shift, desires change, moments pass. To cling, to resist, is to suffer unnecessarily. I remember a student clinging to anger toward a friend who betrayed him. I told him, "The feeling is yours, but do not let it anchor you. Notice it, let it pass." Acceptance does not mean forgetting. It means seeing clearly and not allowing bitterness to control your life. I often say that acceptance is quiet power. It is not loud. It does not boast. It does not force its way. But like water, it moves through obstacles, softens the hard edges, and nourishes everything it touches. A rock cannot withstand the flow of a river forever. A heart cannot thrive against the current of resistance. Yet when we move with acceptance, life becomes more fluid, more gentle, more alive. Sometimes, people fear acceptance because it seems passive. They think they must always fight to protect themselves, to achieve, to survive. But I ask them to observe the sky, how it does not fight the clouds, yet every cloud passes, and the sun shines. The trees do not resist winter, yet spring always returns. There is a rhythm to life, a dance that we cannot fully control, and acceptance allows us to join that dance with grace. I remember a student who struggled with chronic illness, frustrated by limits he could not change. He wanted to fight endlessly, to regain what he thought was lost. I told him, "Acceptance is not giving up on healing. It is noticing your body, your limits, and moving gently within them. When you stop struggling, your energy is freed for growth, for love, for joy, for the moments that still remain." Slowly, he began to smile more, breathe more freely, and notice the beauty around him, even amidst difficulty. Acceptance also teaches compassion, both for ourselves and for others. When we see that everyone is walking their path, facing their own struggles, making mistakes, and learning slowly, we soften. I often say, do not judge too harshly. Do not demand perfection from yourself or others. Acceptance is seeing clearly, and in seeing clearly, offering space for love and understanding. A student once asked me, "But Master, what if acceptance makes me feel weak?" I laughed softly and said, "Strength is not in resistance alone, but in clarity, in knowing, in allowing life to teach you its lessons gently." Even small moments of acceptance bring deep peace. A spilled cup of tea, a lost train, a missed appointment. These are not disasters, only moments that pass. A friend once came to me, frustrated by such small mishaps, and I told her, "See these moments as clouds. Do not grasp. Do not resist. They pass, and you are still here, breathing, alive and whole." She smiled, finally understanding that acceptance is not about surrendering life, but about noticing it without unnecessary suffering. Acceptance allows gratitude to bloom. When we stop resisting, we see clearly the blessings that remain. I remember a student who lost much in life: friends, possessions, opportunities, and yet, through gentle acceptance, he discovered joy in small things. A warm cup of tea, a quiet morning, the laughter of a child, the song of a bird. Life had not diminished. His perspective had opened. Acceptance does not take, it reveals. I tell students often that acceptance is a practice, not a one-time achievement. Each day offers new moments to practice letting go, to observe, to breathe, and to allow life to unfold. A storm comes, a heartbreak arrives, joy appears unexpectedly, challenges test us. And in every moment, we can choose acceptance, not as a passive surrender, but as an active embrace of reality. In embracing acceptance, we also embrace ourselves fully and gently. We see our own flaws, our own struggles, our own fears, and we stop resisting. I remember a young man ashamed of his past mistakes, beating himself for years. I told him, "You are human. You have lived. You have learned. You have fallen. Accept yourself. Do not punish. Do not cling to guilt. See clearly, breathe, and move forward. In acceptance, your heart is free." Slowly, he began to walk more lightly, to smile more freely, and to forgive himself. Acceptance is the bridge between suffering and peace. When we fight reality, we suffer. When we see clearly and allow what is, peace arises. I remember a student frustrated by her family, angry at circumstances she could not change. I said, "See them as they are. You cannot force them to be different. Accept, and you free yourself. Only then can love, kindness, and understanding grow." She nodded, her eyes softening, and a quiet smile appeared. And so, my dear friend, the practice of acceptance is gentle, ongoing, and profound. It is in noticing the world as it is, feeling fully, and allowing life to unfold without unnecessary resistance. It is in breathing, in seeing, in softening, in moving with the rhythm of existence. Acceptance is not passive. It is the quiet power that allows our hearts to open, our spirits to soar, and our lives to become deeply, beautifully human. The gentle art of letting go. Ah, my dear friend, come closer, and let us speak quietly about something that everyone struggles with, yet few truly understand: the gentle art of letting go. You see, we carry so much with us through life, don't we? Memories, regrets, anger, fear, desires, expectations. All of it becomes a weight on the heart, even if we do not notice at first. And we tell ourselves, "I must hold on. I must protect this. I cannot lose it." But in reality, holding on too tightly is what causes suffering. True freedom begins when we learn to let go, not forcefully, not out of despair, but with gentle understanding, like a leaf floating from a tree into a river. I remember a young man who came to me one morning, his shoulders heavy, his eyes clouded with worry. "Master," he said, "I can't let go of my past. Every mistake I've made, every wrong turn, it follows me, and I feel trapped." I nodded, understanding perfectly, for this is a story many of us live. I took him to the garden, where the morning dew rested on the petals of flowers, and the sunlight was soft and forgiving. "See these flowers?" I asked. "Some bloom fully, some fade quickly, some bend in the wind. They do not cling to yesterday's sunshine, nor do they resist the coming night. They simply live, moment by moment. This is the way of letting go. The past is like yesterday's sun. It has set, yet its warmth remains for a time. Learn to release it without regret, without force, and you will find lightness in your heart. He looked at me, skeptical. But Master, if I let go, won't I lose everything I've worked for? Won't I forget what is important? I smiled gently. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean giving up your values or dreams. It means releasing the burden that prevents you from walking freely. A cup holds water, yes, but if it is full of old, stagnant water, it cannot hold anything new. Let go, cleanse the cup, and allow fresh water to flow in. Life is like that, always offering something new, always moving. Many people confuse letting go with weakness, thinking that surrender is failure. But my dear friend, it takes tremendous strength to release. I remember a woman who clung to anger towards someone who hurt her deeply. For years, she replayed the betrayal, sharpening her resentment. I asked her to sit with me quietly by the river, to feel her anger as if it were a stone she carried. Notice it, I said softly. Feel it without judgment. See its weight. And then, when ready, place it in the river. Watch it drift away. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to hold on. You simply allow. This is strength, not weakness. She hesitated at first, but slowly, over weeks, her heart softened, and she began to smile again. Letting go is also about expectations, the ones we hold for ourselves, for others, for life. So often, suffering arises because reality does not match what we imagined, what we hoped, what we demanded. I once had a student who was angry at the world because life had not given him the career he thought he deserved. I told him, see, the river does not flow where we wish. It flows where it can. We cannot command it. We can, however, learn to step into its current, let it carry us, and notice the beauty along the way. The job, the relationship, the recognition, these are not the source of peace. Peace is found when we stop clutching, when we release the need to control and allow life to unfold. Many fear letting go of people, friends, lovers, family. They say, if I let go, I will lose them forever. But the heart does not lose what it loves by releasing it. I recall a man who could not forgive his father, carrying a lifetime of disappointment and unmet expectations. Master, he said, I cannot let go. If I do, it is like giving up on him, on us. I told him, releasing is not giving up. It is creating space for understanding. You do not need to force reconciliation, but you can free yourself from the chains of resentment. Love remains even when anger is released. It does not vanish. It transforms. Slowly, he began to breathe more lightly, to notice that his heart could expand instead of shrink. Letting go is not a single act, but a practice, a journey of the heart. It is gentle, patient, forgiving, and requires awareness. I often tell my students, notice when you clutch too tightly, your thoughts, your fears, your desires. See the grip, feel the tension, and in that moment soften. Do not force release. Simply allow the hand to relax and notice the lightness that follows. I remember a young boy who would fret over every small mistake in his studies, every small failure. I asked him to draw his worries on a piece of paper and then burn it in the fire. He laughed at first, but as the smoke rose, he felt his heart lighten. Letting go can be playful, simple, and surprisingly gentle. Sometimes, letting go is about forgiveness, not only for others but also for ourselves. We carry guilt like chains, punishing ourselves over choices made long ago. I had a student who blamed herself for a past failure that had nothing to do with her control. She came, tears flowing, whispering, "I cannot forgive myself." I said, "You are human. You did what you could, given the knowledge, the circumstances, and your heart at that time. Release the guilt. See it, feel it, let it pass. Forgiveness is the first step to freedom. Without it, your spirit cannot breathe." Slowly, she began to smile, a genuine smile that touched her eyes and soul. Even the smallest moments offer opportunities to practice letting go. A spilled cup, a delayed train, a harsh word. These are not disasters, only moments that pass. When we clutch at them, they grow heavy, but when we release, they vanish like mist in the morning sun. I often tell students, notice how clinging to a single thought, a single fear, can darken your whole day. Let it go. Breathe. Watch life flow. You are not bound by yesterday. You are not bound by what you cannot change. You are free in this very moment. Letting go also brings clarity. When we release attachment to outcomes, to rigid expectations, to resentment, our minds open and insight arises. I remember a young monk who obsessed over becoming the best in his practice, comparing himself constantly to others. I told him, see your own path, not theirs. Let go of competition, of judgment, of clinging to a title or recognition. Only then will your practice deepen. Only then will your mind open to the quiet wisdom already within you. He began to meditate not with striving, but with noticing, and slowly, his heart expanded with understanding. And so, my dear friend, letting go is not about loss, weakness, or surrender. It is about clarity, freedom, and gentle strength. It is about allowing life to flow, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and releasing the weight that keeps the heart small. I remember the wind through the trees, the river flowing over stones, the clouds drifting across the sky. None cling, none resist, and yet all are beautiful, alive, and whole. To let go is to join this natural rhythm, to move with grace, and to find peace in each moment, no matter what arises. The practice of letting go asks for patience, courage, and gentleness. It is not instant, not dramatic, but quiet, ongoing, and transformative. We may stumble, hold on again, then soften once more. But each moment of release, no matter how small, brings freedom. Life is always offering us chances to unclench, to breathe, to soften, to notice. And in each of these moments, the heart learns, the soul stretches, and we find ourselves lighter, freer, more alive than we ever imagined. My dear friend, let this truth settle in your heart. Letting go is love in action. Love for life, love for yourself, love for the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. Practice it, breathe it, feel it, and see how your heart, your mind, and your life transform quietly, gently, and beautifully, like the first light of dawn that touches everything without force, without judgment, but with a grace that endures. Embracing silence within. Ah, my dear friend, sit with me a while, and let us speak softly about something that is often overlooked, yet holds the deepest treasures of life: silence. Not the silence that comes from absence, nor the silence forced by loneliness, but the quiet, gentle stillness that lives inside each of us, waiting patiently, like the soft shadow of a tree at dawn. You see, in our daily lives, we are constantly surrounded by noise. Words, thoughts, worries, reminders, obligations, and endless chatter. The mind is like a busy marketplace, loud, bustling, demanding attention, never resting. But within this ceaseless hum, there is a place of stillness, a quiet sanctuary, and to embrace it is to discover peace that the world cannot take away. I remember a young student who came to me, restless and burdened. "Master," he said. "I cannot think. My mind is too loud. I am too tired. And yet I feel I must keep moving, always thinking, always planning. I cannot rest." I smiled, nodding, for I had walked that path many times myself. I took him to the garden where the bamboo swayed gently, and the small pond reflected the sky so perfectly that it seemed to hold the heavens. "See this water?" I asked. "Notice how it reflects without striving. The wind may ripple it, leaves may fall upon it, but the water does not fight. It simply holds the moment. Your mind, too, can hold the moment. You do not need to control every thought, every worry. In this silence, there is understanding. In this stillness, there is freedom." He looked uncertain, his brow furrowed. "But Master, if I stop thinking, if I stop planning, won't I lose direction? Won't life pass me by?" I chuckled softly. Silence does not mean inaction, nor does it mean ignorance. It is like the pause in music, the space between breaths. Without it, life becomes a harsh clamor, but with it, each note, each breath, each step gains clarity and meaning. The silence is not empty. It is full of life, of wisdom, of presence. Many fear silence because it reveals what is inside. When there is no distraction, no external noise, the mind turns inward, and we may meet our own fears, regrets, loneliness, or sorrow. I remember a woman who came to me, her eyes shadowed with anxiety, saying, "Master, I cannot be alone with my thoughts. They overwhelm me." I took her to the river at dusk, the water glowing orange with the setting sun. "See the river," I said. "It flows, and yet it is quiet, steady." To embrace silence is not to vanish into fear, but to meet yourself with compassion. The river does not judge the rocks it encounters, it simply flows. Learn to flow with your thoughts, not against them, not running from them, but allowing them to pass, like leaves on the current. Silence is also a teacher. When we allow stillness, our hearts begin to notice subtleties we never saw before. The soft rustle of wind, the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the rhythm of our own breath. I recall a young monk who was always anxious about his studies, rushing through prayers and meditation. I asked him to sit in silence by the old pine tree and just listen. At first, he fidgeted, uncomfortable with nothing to do, nothing to occupy his mind. But slowly, he noticed the birds calling to each other, the small insects moving through the grass, the pattern of shadows shifting with the sun. In that silence, he began to understand the rhythm of life, the harmony he had been missing. Embracing silence is also a way of connecting to others, though paradoxically, it requires no words. Sometimes, two people can sit together without speaking, and yet feel a deeper understanding than any conversation could offer. I remember two friends who had been quarreling, holding on to pride and resentment. I guided them to sit quietly by the stream, each lost in their own thoughts, yet sharing the same space. No words passed, but after some time, their hearts softened and the tension between them melted. Silence, in its gentle way, heals what words cannot. The world often teaches us to fear stillness, to fill every moment with sound, movement, or distraction, but I tell my students, in silence, life whispers its secrets. It is in the quiet that creativity awakens, that insight emerges, that the heart learns patience, humility, and love. I remember a young artist who could not paint, for her mind was always busy, always judging, always planning. I asked her to sit by the pond in silence, to watch without expectation. Days passed, and slowly, her hands began to move, painting not what she thought she should, but what the silence revealed. The flow of life, the beauty of imperfection, the tender presence of now. Silence also allows for healing. When grief arrives, when sorrow touches our lives, when mistakes weigh heavily, the quiet offers solace. I remember a man mourning his father, feeling lost in the noise of memories and regrets. I told him to sit in the quiet, to breathe, to listen to his own heart. At first, he resisted, overwhelmed by the intensity of his feelings. But in the silence, he began to feel a gentle warmth, a presence that was comforting yet unobtrusive. He realized that grief need not be battled, that sorrow can be held, and in holding it, transformed into understanding, into love, into acceptance. Even in our daily routines, silence can be found if we allow it. Walking slowly, washing dishes, preparing tea, tending a garden. Each act, if done mindfully, holds moments of quiet reflection. I often tell my students, notice the sound of water as you pour it, the rhythm of your own hands as they move. In these simple acts, silence is present. You do not need to escape to mountains or temples to find it. It is here now, in the ordinary, waiting for your awareness. Yet, embracing silence is not always comfortable. The mind resists, fearing the unknown, fearing emptiness, fearing confrontation with itself. I remember a student who complained, "Master, I feel anxious when I sit quietly. I feel like I am drowning in my own thoughts." I nodded, for this is natural. "Yes," I said. "The mind is like a wild horse. It must be tamed with patience, not force. Sit, notice, breathe. Let the thoughts gallop past, but do not follow them. In time, the wildness softens, and you will see the meadow beyond, quiet, gentle, free." Silence is also a way of listening, not only to our own heart, but to the world. When we quiet ourselves, we hear the wind, the rain, the laughter of children, the subtle changes in nature, the unspoken emotions of others. I remember a teacher who said nothing, simply listening to his students in the quiet. His silence was not emptiness. It was presence, attention, love. And in that quiet, the students felt seen, heard, understood, and their hearts opened. My dear friend, embracing silence is not about avoiding life, hiding from the world, or becoming detached. It is about finding the depth within, the center of peace that cannot be shaken by noise, by chaos, by fear. It is about noticing, feeling, understanding, and allowing. Life does not rush when we sit quietly. Time flows naturally, and we begin to flow with it. In silence, we meet ourselves, meet others, meet life itself. So, let us practice together. Sit, breathe, and notice. Feel the pause between each breath, the space between each thought, the gentle unfolding of each moment. Do not force it. Do not judge it. Simply allow. And slowly, as you embrace this quiet, you will discover that silence is not empty. It is rich, alive, healing, and full of wisdom. It holds the answers we seek not in clamor, not in haste, but in gentle presence. Ah, my friend, remember this. The world can never take silence away from you. It lives within, always, patiently, quietly, like the heart of the mountain, the stillness of the forest, the reflection of the moon on the water. Embrace it. Return to it often. In it, you will find peace, insight, and the gentle unfolding of life in every moment. Walking gently through change. Ah, my dear friend, come closer and sit with me a while, for today we will speak softly about change. Life, you see, is always moving, always shifting, like clouds in the sky, like water in the river, like the wind that cannot be held. Sometimes it comes gently, like a soft breeze brushing your cheek, and sometimes it comes like a storm, tearing through everything you thought was steady. And in both moments, the lesson is the same. We must walk gently through change, not resisting, not clinging, but learning to move with it, as if we were dancing with the wind, rather than struggling against it. I remember a student who came to me many seasons ago, her eyes clouded with worry. She had lost her work, her plans crumbled, and she feared that her life would never be the same again. "Master," she said, "everything I built, everything I hoped for is gone. How can I live when nothing is certain anymore?" I took her hand and guided her to the garden, where the cherry blossoms were falling slowly, one by one, onto the ground. "Do you see these petals?" I asked. They lived on the tree, vibrant and bright, and now they fall. They do not fight the wind. They do not cling to the branch. They move with grace, and in letting go, they continue their journey. So too must you learn to move gently, to release what cannot stay, and to trust that life will continue, even if it looks different from what you expected. She frowned, uncertain. "But Master, if I let go, won't I lose myself? Won't I lose the life I dreamed of?" I smiled softly. "Ah, my dear, change is not about losing, but about transforming. When the old falls away, there is space for something new, something unexpected, something beautiful. The life you dreamed of may not arrive, but another life, equally full and rich, waits quietly for you. We must learn to trust the unfolding, not force it, not demand it, but walk with it, gently, step by step. Change can be frightening, because it asks us to step into the unknown. I recall a young man who had spent years in a small village, never leaving, never exploring. One day, he was called to the city to work, and he trembled at the thought of the unfamiliar, the people, the streets, the noise. "Master," he said, "I am afraid. I do not know what awaits me. I do not know if I will survive." I guided him to the river at dawn, where the mist hovered over the water. "See the river," I said. "It does not know what lies around the bend, yet it flows steadily without fear. It may encounter rocks, it may meet obstacles, yet it does not stop. Life is like the river. You may not see the path ahead clearly, but if you move gently, with presence and awareness, you will find your way. Fear is a companion, not an enemy. Walk with it, and it will guide you, not block you." We often resist change because it challenges our sense of identity, our comfort, our plans. I remember an elder, a woman who had lived in the same home for decades, surrounded by the familiar. When her house was to be sold, she wept, feeling that a part of herself would vanish. I held her hand and said, "Your home is not the walls, nor the roof, nor the furniture. It is here." And I placed my hand gently over her heart. "The life you have lived, the memories, the love, the lessons, they travel with you. When the walls fall away, the heart remains. In change, the essence remains. Walk gently, and you will see that the soul is never displaced, only reshaped, like clay in the hands of a careful sculptor. Sometimes, change brings joy unexpectedly. I remember a young mother who feared leaving her small village to study in the city. She worried about leaving her family, about the challenges, about the unknown. Yet, when she arrived, she discovered friendships, opportunities, and a world richer than she had imagined. Change, when embraced gently, can reveal beauty we could not foresee, gifts hidden in the folds of life's uncertain journey. The key, my friend, is gentleness. Do not rush, do not force, do not fight. Move with awareness, as if each step were a prayer, each breath a moment of presence. When loss comes, grieve with patience. When opportunity arrives, receive it with gratitude. When life shifts in ways you cannot predict, anchor yourself in the present, for it is the only place where change can be met fully. I often tell my students, imagine you are walking on a path through a dense forest. The path twists and turns, sometimes steep, sometimes flat, sometimes covered with fallen leaves or slippery stones. You cannot see the entire trail, and you cannot control the forest. But you can walk gently, step by step, with awareness, noticing the sounds, the light, the smell of earth and leaves, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. This is how we walk through change. Not by knowing every step, but by being present for each one. Even small changes require courage. I recall a young monk who feared speaking in front of others. The elders asked him to lead a meditation, and he shook with worry. I said, "Do not think of the stage, do not think of the people. Think only of the next breath, the next word, the next gesture. Step lightly, gently, as if walking on soft moss. The world will follow your presence, not your performance." And indeed, he found that by moving gently, by embracing the moment fully, the fear softened, and a quiet confidence blossomed in its place. Change also teaches humility. I remember a farmer whose crops were destroyed by a sudden storm. He had planned carefully, worked tirelessly, and yet nature shifted his plans. He came to me in sorrow, asking why life could be so cruel. I said, "The storm does not know cruelty nor kindness. It simply moves as it must. Life too moves as it must. Your work, your care, your effort, they are seeds. Some bloom, some are carried away by wind and rain. Walk gently with the cycles, and you will find peace, not in controlling life, but in flowing with it. In all things, we must remember that change is inevitable. It is the wind in our sails, the tide that moves the boat, the turning of the seasons. We can resist, we can complain, we can fear, but the river continues to flow, and the seasons will turn. The wise do not resist the river, nor the season. They move gently, like reeds in the water, bending, yielding, yet always standing. So, my dear friend, when you face change, breathe deeply. Feel your heart, feel your feet on the ground, feel the life moving through you. Do not rush, do not grasp, do not demand. Walk gently, step by step, moment by moment. Notice the small wonders along the way. The song of a bird, the smell of earth after rain, the laughter of a child. These are reminders that life continues, and that in gentle presence, we can meet each change with wisdom, courage, and love. And remember, even when the world seems uncertain, even when the path ahead is hidden, even when storms gather overhead, the heart has the power to remain gentle, the mind has the ability to be steady, and the spirit can flow like water, adapting, moving, and embracing the journey with quiet courage. In this, the art of walking through change is revealed, not as a battle, not as a fear, but as a delicate dance with life itself, where each step, each breath, each moment becomes a teacher, and each change a companion. The wind will always blow, the river will always flow, the seasons will always turn, and we, my dear friend, can learn to walk gently, with awareness, with patience, with love. This is the way of embracing change, the quiet wisdom that unfolds not in resistance, but in gentle acceptance, step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment. Embracing silence and solitude. My dear friend, come, sit quietly with me for a while. Today, we will speak about silence, the gentle companion that is always there, yet often ignored. You know, in our lives, we fill every moment with noise, voices, thoughts, worries, plans, and endless chatter. And yet, within that constant sound, there is a quietness that waits for us, patiently, softly, like a river flowing beneath the surface of rushing water. It does not shout, it does not demand. It only asks that we notice it, that we lean in just a little and breathe. I remember a young student who came to me, frazzled and restless, her mind like a stormy sea. She could not sleep, she could not focus, and every small sound made her heart jump. "Master," she said, "I feel like I am always running, inside and outside. I do not know how to stop." I smiled gently and guided her to the old courtyard, where the bamboo trees swayed silently. "Do you hear the bamboo?" I asked. She listened, frowning, confused, but then nodded slightly. "It moves with the wind, but it does not fight it. It bends, it sways, it whispers softly, but it does not scream. Life is much the same. When your mind is noisy, come to the silence, and let it teach you how to bend, how to sway, how to rest." Solitude, too, is misunderstood. Many fear it, thinking being alone means being lonely, abandoned, or empty. But solitude is not emptiness. It is a gift, a quiet room in your heart where you can meet yourself without judgment, without distraction, without hurry. I recall an elder who lived alone at the edge of the mountains. People said he was lonely, that he must be sad. Yet when I visited him, I found him laughing softly at the clouds, watching the sunset with wonder, talking to the birds as if they were old friends. He told me, "When I am alone, I am never lonely, for I am with the most important companion of all, my own heart." Many fear silence because it reflects back their own thoughts, their own worries. I remember a man who came to me, always speaking, always explaining, always justifying. When I invited him to sit quietly, he shook his head. "Master, I cannot. My mind will run wild." I said, "Ah, but that is exactly why you must sit. The mind will run, yes, but the quiet will remain, and over time, the running slows. Do not fight it, do not chase it. Just sit and listen to the stillness beneath the noise. It is there waiting, always. In silence, we discover patience. I remember a woman who was anxious about her future, worried about her children, her work, her aging parents. She came to me every day, speaking quickly, seeking answers, seeking reassurance. One day, I took her to the river, and we sat, saying nothing. The water moved slowly, quietly, and after a long while, she sighed deeply. "I think I understand, Master," she said. "The river does not rush, yet it reaches its destination. Perhaps I can learn to move like the river." Silence had taught her more than words ever could. Solitude also teaches presence. When we are alone, we notice the small things, the texture of a leaf, the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of our own breath. I remember a young monk who was afraid of being alone in the forest. "What if I get bored, Master? What if I feel afraid?" I smiled. "Ah, but in solitude, you will find the world within you. You will hear the whispers of your own heart, the small wonders that always surround you but often go unnoticed. Fear will come, yes, but you will also meet courage, quietly, softly, like a friend sitting beside you. The world is loud, my dear friend, and often we forget the beauty of silence. I recall a festival, bustling with music, chatter, and bright lights. People danced, shouted, laughed, and I stood at the edge, listening to the quiet between the notes of the music, between the laughter of the children. That space, that tiny pause, was more alive than the noise itself. It reminded me that in every storm, there is a calm center. In every fire, there is a warm glow waiting to be noticed. Even grief finds solace in silence. I remember a man who had lost his beloved. Words could not comfort him. Friends could not soothe him. So we sat together, side by side, in the quiet garden, letting the tears fall silently. After some time, he whispered, "I feel her here, in this stillness." Silence allowed him to meet his sorrow, to honor it, and in that honor, he began to heal. Embracing silence and solitude is also embracing humility. When we sit quietly, we realize that we are small in the vastness of life. The wind, the trees, the mountains, the stars, they are older, wiser, and patient beyond our understanding. And yet, within that smallness, we find our own place, our own presence, our own life. I remember a student who thought he was too insignificant to make a difference. When he spent days in solitude by the stream, listening, watching, breathing, he understood that even a small pebble can ripple the water, can shape the river. Silence had taught him that presence matters more than noise. And my dear friend, let us not forget joy. Silence is not sadness. Solitude is not loneliness. In these spaces, laughter can arise spontaneously, wonder can awaken naturally, and love can deepen quietly. I remember a child visiting the temple, running to the garden, sitting under a tree, and simply watching a butterfly. No words were needed. Her laughter, soft and pure, was a song born from solitude, from noticing, from being fully present. Even in practice, silence is our teacher. When we meditate, we sit, not to escape the world, but to meet it more fully. Thoughts arise, sensations appear, feelings emerge, yet we do not fight them. We observe, gently, as if watching clouds drift by. Solitude provides the space to do this, to be with what is, to meet what is, without judgment, without haste, without fear. The quiet does not demand anything, it only offers everything. I often remind my students, imagine that your mind is like a garden. If you fill it with endless noise, endless chatter, endless worries, it becomes crowded, overgrown, hard to move through. But when you allow silence, when you allow solitude, it is like clearing the weeds, planting seeds, feeling the earth beneath your fingers, listening to the wind in the branches. The garden flourishes, the mind flourishes, the heart flourishes. Sometimes we fear solitude because we equate it with stillness, and stillness feels empty. Yet, stillness is not empty. It is alive, vibrant, full of subtle whispers of the pulse of life, of small miracles waiting to be noticed. I remember a man who feared sitting quietly. "What if I do nothing?" he asked. I said, but in doing nothing, you are doing everything. In stillness, you meet the world. In silence, you hear life. In solitude, you meet your own heart. So, my dear friend, let us embrace silence, not as an absence, but as presence. Let us embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as companionship with ourselves and the universe. Let us sit quietly, breathe deeply, notice the small things, listen to the whispers of life, and discover the richness that always surrounds us, if we are only willing to pause, to notice, to be. In silence, we hear the truth. In solitude, we meet ourselves. In both, we discover love, patience, courage, joy, and the gentle, enduring rhythm of life itself. And in this, my dear friend, we learn that the quietest moments often carry the loudest lessons, that the softest spaces often hold the deepest wisdom, and that in embracing silence and solitude, we are never truly alone, for life itself, tender and patient, walks beside us every step of the way. The dance of letting go. My dear friend, come sit with me a little while. Today, we speak of something very simple, yet very hard. Letting go. You see, most people carry so much in their hearts and minds. Memories, regrets, fears, expectations, and endless what-ifs. Sometimes, it is as if we hold a heavy basket, overfilled with stones, and we do not even notice how it weighs us down until our shoulders ache, our legs tremble, and we wonder why we feel so tired. Letting go is learning to open our hands and let some of those stones fall gently to the ground. One by one, without shame, without rush, and without fear. I remember a young monk, restless and anxious, always chasing perfection. Every day, he tried to please everyone. His teachers, his friends, his parents, even strangers passing by. He would return to me, exhausted, eyes bright but clouded with worry. "Master," he said, "I cannot stop thinking of everything I must do, everything I must be. How do I let go?" I smiled quietly, because I had seen this question 1,000 times, and I knew his heart would answer it slowly in its own time. "Come," I said, "let us walk by the river." And we walked, and I asked him to pick up a handful of pebbles, small and smooth. He did, counting them carefully, making sure none fell. Then I said, "Now, throw them into the water." Hesitant, he let one slip, then another, until his hands were empty, and he watched the ripples spread across the river. "Do you see?" I whispered. "The river does not hold the pebbles, yet it carries them for a moment, lets them touch the water, then moves on. Life is like this. You do not need to hold everything forever. Sometimes, letting go is not about giving up, but about understanding that holding too tightly only causes suffering." I remember a woman who lost someone she loved dearly. She clutched every memory, every photo, every word he had spoken, as if letting them go would mean losing him completely. Her grief became a heavy cloak, and she could not breathe beneath it. I took her to the garden, where the cherry blossoms were falling. "See how the petals fall," I said. "They do not cling to the tree, and yet the tree does not die. Each petal returns to the earth, becomes part of everything. Your love, too, can be like a falling petal. It does not vanish. It transforms." Slowly, her shoulders relaxed, her eyes softened, and she began to understand that letting go does not erase love. It allows it to change, to breathe, to live in a new way. We often resist letting go because we confuse it with weakness, with giving up. But it takes great courage to release, to trust the flow of life, to surrender to the moment without forcing it. I remember an elder who had once been a merchant, tightly holding onto every coin, every deal, every success. One day, he lost nearly everything, and he was furious at the world, at himself, at fate. Yet, in the silence of his small hut, watching the wind stir the leaves outside, he realized something quietly. If I continue to clutch, I only suffer. If I release, I may find more than I ever imagined. And when he let go of his bitterness, his fear, his obsession with what was lost, he found a freedom, gentle and unexpected, like sunlight through the clouds. Letting go can be about forgiveness, too. Not just of others, but of ourselves. I recall a man who could not forgive himself for a mistake he made many years ago. Every day, he carried the weight, punishing himself silently, imagining he was undeserving of joy or love. When he came to me, I asked, "Do you think the sun punishes the sky for clouds?" He frowned, puzzled. "No," he said. "The clouds pass, the sky remains, and the light returns." I smiled. "Yes, and so it is with you. Your mistake is like a cloud. It can touch you, perhaps bring rain, but it does not define the sky of your being. Let it pass." Slowly, over weeks and months, he began to release the grip of guilt. And with each small act of letting go, he felt lighter, freer, more alive. There is also the letting go of control, which is perhaps the hardest of all. We want life to unfold in certain ways. We want people to act as we wish. We want events to bend to our plan. And when they do not, we suffer. We cling. We push. We resist. I once guided a student who tried to control every moment of his day, every word he spoke, every smile he gave. He was tense, rigid, afraid of mistakes. I asked him to close his eyes and breathe. simply noticing the rise and fall of his chest. "Life flows," I said softly. "You cannot control the river, the wind, or the birds. You cannot even control the next breath. But you can float on the river, you can dance with the wind, you can watch the birds, and you can breathe with life. This is letting go, not of care, but of futile control. Even our expectations can weigh us down." I remember a mother who had hopes for her child, specific paths, certain successes. When life took a different turn, her heart was heavy with disappointment. "I wanted this for them, Master," she said. "Why do they choose differently?" I asked her to look at the stars that night. "Do you see how each star shines in its own way? Some are bright, some faint, some distant, some close. The universe does not demand uniformity, yet it is beautiful. So too with your child. Let them shine in their own way. Let go of the need for them to match your vision, and you will see their light more clearly." Letting go is also about impermanence, understanding that nothing lasts forever. A student once asked me, "Master, how can I let go of happiness? I fear it will leave me." I laughed softly. "Ah, but it is already leaving, even as you grasp. If you hold too tightly, it becomes suffering. If you notice, if you breathe, if you let it flow, it becomes peace. Happiness is a river, my dear one, not a stone to carry. And in this practice, we discover balance. Life is a constant dance of holding and releasing. I remember an elder who lived by the lake. Each morning, he collected water in a clay pot, used it to nourish his garden, then poured the excess back into the lake. He never hoarded, never clung. He said, "If I do not let the water flow, it stagnates. If I do not let go, my heart stagnates." Letting go is not losing. It is moving. It is life itself. Even in relationships, letting go is necessary. I once guided two friends who clung to resentment over a small argument. Each day, the weight grew heavier, each word sharper. I asked them to sit together in silence, to breathe, to notice the world beyond their anger. Slowly, they realized that their grip on pride, on blame, on fear of vulnerability, was heavier than any hurt the other had caused. When they released the resentment, not forgetting, not excusing, but simply letting go, their friendship became warmer, softer, alive again. The dance of letting go is also a dance with time. We resist aging, we resist change, we resist endings, thinking they mean failure, loss, or insignificance. I remember a woman who mourned her youth, her beauty, her opportunities. I asked her to observe a tree through the seasons. See how it blossoms, bears fruit, sheds leaves, rests, and begins again? I said, it does not fight any stage. Each is necessary. Each is beautiful. Letting go of one season allows the next to bloom fully. Slowly, she learned to release regret and embrace each moment as it came, like petals on the wind. And so, my dear friend, remember this. Letting go is not a single act, but a lifetime practice. Each day, small stones fall from your hands. Each breath carries a little more freedom. Each pause in the heart invites peace. The river, the wind, the stars, the blossoms, they all teach you gently, softly, if you only notice. Hold what nourishes, release what burdens, and trust the rhythm of life. Life itself flows through our hands, through our hearts, through our very being. And when we learn to let go, not in fear, not in despair, but in trust, we discover the gentle, enduring joy of being alive, fully, softly, freely. And in this, my dear friend, we find the quiet miracle that everything we needed was never in grasping, but in releasing, in breathing, in opening our hands and hearts, and allowing life to dance through us, always, endlessly, beautifully. The quiet power of patience. Ah, my dear one, come sit a little closer, and let us speak softly today, for the words we share are gentle, like the early morning mist that drifts over the mountains. Today, I wish to speak about patience. You see, in this world, we live in such a hurry. Everyone wants results. Everyone wants to see change immediately. Everyone wants to reach the top before even learning to walk steadily on the path. Yet the truth, my friend, is that the most beautiful growth, the deepest understanding, and the most lasting peace always comes slowly. Patience is not simply waiting. It is learning to be present in the moment, to move gently with the rhythm of life, and to trust that everything unfolds in its own time, in its own way. I remember a young student, restless and anxious, who came to me, eyes bright and troubled. "Master," he said, "I practice every day. I try to meditate. I try to be calm, but nothing seems to change. I feel stuck." I looked at him quietly, noticing the tightness in his shoulders, the clench of his fists. "Ah," I said softly, "you are trying to hurry life. Patience is not a race. It is a river. You cannot force it to flow faster. You cannot command the stones to move. You must float with it, notice its current, and allow it to carry you." "Do you see the river?" He nodded, eyes searching. "Yes, master." I smiled. "And do you see how it moves around the rocks, around the fallen branches, sometimes slowing, sometimes rushing, but always moving forward? Life is the same. Be patient and you will see. Patience is sometimes easiest to understand in nature." I remember taking a child to the orchard one spring morning. The trees were bare, yet small buds were forming. "Look," I said, "these trees have been standing here for many years. They do not rush to bloom. They wait for the right sun, the right warmth, the right rain. And when the time comes, they open in beauty. You cannot force them to flower before they are ready. Neither can you force your own heart or mind to grow too quickly." The child watched quietly, beginning to understand, though the lesson would take many seasons to sink in. Patience is also the quiet companion of struggle. I once guided a man who had lost nearly everything: his home, his livelihood, and his confidence. Each day, he would come to the monastery with heavy steps and heavier heart. "Master," he said, "I have worked so hard, yet nothing improves. How do I endure this?" I led him to a small pond, where the fish swam lazily beneath the lily pads. "See these fish?" I asked. "They do not hurry. They do not demand that the water be different, or that the sun shine at a certain angle. They simply live in the water, moving with it, finding sustenance and existing fully. You too can endure. Patience is not passive. It is alive, active, flowing. It is breathing through difficulty and allowing time to show the way." I have seen patience teach humility, too. A young monk, eager to master every teaching, every technique, every insight, became frustrated when others seemed to learn faster. His pride and impatience created tension in his mind and heart. I asked him to plant a seed in the soil, water it, and care for it, but not to dig it up to see if it had grown. Each day, he tended the soil, removed the weeds, and watered gently. Weeks later, a tiny sprout emerged. "Master," he said, "it has grown, but it took so long." I smiled. "Yes," I said, "and in this you learn patience, humility, and trust. Some things cannot be rushed. Some understanding comes only with time. Your mind, like the seed, will sprout when it is ready." Patience is also a teacher of compassion. When we are impatient, we react too quickly, speak too harshly, or judge too swiftly. But when we cultivate patience, We allow space for others to learn, to falter, to speak, to be themselves. I remember a woman who came to me, frustrated with her child, who struggled to learn simple tasks. She was about to scold, to push, to demand perfection. I asked her to watch a young bird learning to fly. See how it hops, falls, flutters, and tries again? Do you push it off the branch? No. You watch, you allow, you wait. Your child is like this bird. Be patient, and you will see strength emerge in its own time. Slowly, she began to release her frustration, and love replaced the tension in her heart. Patience is not only for the big challenges. It is in the small, daily moments too. Waiting for water to boil, for the tea to steep, for the morning mist to lift, for the heart to soften. I remember a student, eager for enlightenment, asking, "Master, why does it take so long to feel peace?" I laughed softly. "Ah, you expect it to arrive like a guest on time. But peace is not punctual. It comes quietly, when you are ready, not when you demand it." Patience allows you to notice the small miracles. The soft light through the window, the warmth of the sun on your face, the gentle rhythm of your own breath. These are the doors to peace, and patience is the key. There is also a sacred patience in forgiveness. I recall two friends, wounded deeply by each other's words and actions. One wanted immediate reconciliation. The other needed time. Neither could force the heart to open, and both suffered. I asked them to sit in silence, to breathe, to feel the space between anger and understanding. Weeks passed, and slowly their hearts softened. Patience allowed trust to rebuild, allowed wounds to heal naturally. Forcing forgiveness would have been like trying to harvest a fruit before it ripened. True reconciliation, like all good things, requires time. Patience teaches us to embrace impermanence. Life moves, changes, flows. People leave, seasons pass, moments fade. I remember an elder who lost a lifelong companion. At first, grief was sharp, unbearable, and he sought ways to deny it, to rush past it. But in the quiet of the garden, tending the flowers, he noticed each day passing, each bloom opening and closing, each bird singing and flying away. Slowly, he learned that patience does not remove grief, but it softens it, allowing the heart to adjust, to remember, and to continue living fully. Patience is not always easy. I have seen students struggle, the mind restless, the body tense, the heart aching for answers. Yet in these struggles, patience becomes strength. I remember a monk who could not sit still in meditation, his mind racing with thoughts. "I cannot do it, Master," he said. "I am too restless." I guided him to focus only on one breath at a time. Day after day, he tried, failed, and tried again. Slowly, over months, his restlessness softened, his mind quieted, and he discovered a depth of calm he had never imagined. Patience had become his companion, steady and enduring. Even in joy, patience is essential. Happiness, love, success, all arrive gradually. If we push, if we demand, if we cannot wait, we distort the experience, and the sweetness is lost. I recall a young couple, eager to build a life together, rushing through decisions, anxious for certainty. I asked them to walk in the forest, noticing the slow unfolding of each leaf, each flower, each ray of sunlight. "Life," I said, "unfolds like this. Each moment has its time. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, and joy will come naturally without strain." Patience teaches the subtle art of listening, to nature, to others, and to oneself. In the rush, we miss whispers, subtle lessons, small miracles. I once guided a man, frustrated with his work, unable to see progress. I asked him to listen to the wind in the trees, to notice the tiny changes in the pond, to watch the ants move with care and persistence. All these are patient, I said. All these endure, all these teach. So must you. And in listening, he began to understand not only patience but harmony and the quiet rhythm of life itself. So, my dear one, remember, patience is not passive. It is alive, breathing, flowing. It is the gentle wind shaping the mountains over centuries, the soft rain nourishing the earth, the steady sun ripening the fruit. Patience allows time to heal, to teach, to reveal, to transform. In cultivating patience, you cultivate peace, understanding, resilience, and compassion. Breathe, my friend. Notice each moment. Trust the unfolding, and know that in patience, there is a quiet power. A power that moves mountains not with force, but with gentle, persistent, enduring grace. Your heart, your mind, and your life will grow stronger, wiser, and lighter as you learn to walk slowly, breathe deeply, and trust the gentle flow of all that is. Embracing the flow of life. Ah, my dear one, come sit beside me for a while, and let us speak of the flow of life. You see, life is not something to be controlled, pushed, or hurried. It is like a river, winding and turning, sometimes calm, sometimes wild, yet always moving forward. Many people try to resist this flow. They cling to what has passed, they fear what is coming, and they struggle against the current. And in doing so, they exhaust themselves, they suffer, and they forget to truly live. But to embrace life, to live fully and peacefully, we must learn to flow with it, to move gently with its rhythm, and to trust that every twist, every turn has its purpose. I remember a young man who came to me many years ago, eyes restless, heart heavy with worry. "Master," he said, "I am afraid. I do not know what will happen tomorrow. I do not know where life is taking me. I feel lost." I looked at him quietly, noticing the tension in his shoulders, the tightness in his chest. "Ah, my child," I said softly, "you are trying to grab the river and hold it still. You cannot. Life is water. It does not pause for fear or for hesitation. You must learn to float, to bend, to allow it to carry you." He frowned, not fully understanding. "But master," he said, "what if I drown?" I smiled gently. "Ah, my dear one, the river knows its own strength, and you, too, have strength you do not yet see. Flow with life, and you will find your way. Resist, and you will tire. Surrender, and you will be free. Life's flow teaches us humility." I recall an elder, a wise woman, who had once been very proud, certain that she could shape her life exactly as she desired. Yet, time and circumstances showed her otherwise. She lost work, lost relationships, lost possessions she had thought would define her. At first, she railed against this, demanded answers, grew bitter. But slowly, over quiet mornings and soft evenings, she began to notice the rhythm of the world. The sun rising, the birds singing, the wind moving through the trees. And she realized that life had been teaching her all along. Humility, patience, and trust. The river had flowed, and she had resisted. Only when she let go did she feel its gentle embrace. The flow of life is also a teacher of acceptance. There is a boy who once lost his father, and the pain was like fire in his heart. He came to me, tears streaking his young face, demanding answers, asking why the river of life had taken this from him. I took him to a quiet grove, where a small stream wound through the rocks. "See how it moves?" I asked. "See how it does not stop for the stones, the fallen leaves, or the branches. It moves on, carrying all that it meets. Life is like this stream. We cannot control its course. We cannot demand it flow differently. We can only move with it, allow it to teach, and let it carry us gently. He nodded slowly, understanding only in part. But over time, the lessons seeped into his heart. Flow is also about flexibility. The bamboo bends in the wind, and the river curves around the rocks. Those who are rigid break. Those who are supple endure. I have seen students struggle, insisting that life follow their plan, their timeline, their desires. When storms came, loss, illness, betrayal, they broke. But those who learned to bend, to accept, to move with the current, not only survived but grew stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Flexibility, my dear one, is not weakness. It is the quiet strength of one who trusts the flow and is unafraid to move with it. Sometimes, embracing life's flow requires courage. There was a man who feared change more than anything. He clung to his job, his home, his routines, though they brought no joy. I asked him to take a walk along the river, to feel the water, to listen to its whispers. See how it moves? I said. It does not fear the rocks, the bends, the fallen trees. It moves, and in moving, it finds its way. You must have the courage to move too, even when you do not see the path clearly. Trust that the river of life will guide you. Slowly, hesitantly, he began to change. Small steps at first, then larger. And in that courage, he discovered freedom, creativity, and joy he had never known. Flow also teaches us presence. When we resist life, we are lost in past regrets or future anxieties. We miss the sweetness of this moment. The warmth of sunlight, the scent of flowers, the laughter of a child. I often ask students to sit beside a flowing stream, to close their eyes, to breathe, to feel the water, the wind, the earth beneath them. Notice each moment, I say. Do not think about what has passed or what is coming. Life flows now, and only now. If you miss this, you miss everything. In this presence, even the simplest acts, washing dishes, walking along a path, speaking gently, become sacred, alive with life's rhythm. The flow of life also reveals impermanence. Everything moves, changes, evolves. I remember an old friend, grieving the loss of a garden he had tended for decades. "Master," he said, "everything I love fades. Nothing stays." I smiled softly. "Ah yes, and that is why life is precious." The flow teaches us to cherish each moment, each leaf, each smile, each touch. Impermanence is not loss. It is the river moving, the cycle continuing, the chance to experience again and again. He began to walk among his flowers, noticing the blooms, the buds, the fallen petals. And in this, he found gratitude and peace. Even joy is found in the flow. Happiness is not something to capture or hoard. It is a river that moves through us, through moments, through people, through breath and laughter. I recall a young couple, eager for love, expecting passion to arrive on demand. I told them, "Love flows like water. You cannot command it. You cannot trap it. But you can open your hearts, you can move gently with it. And in time, it will teach you depths you cannot imagine." And indeed, as they learned to trust, to be patient, to bend and flow, their love deepened beyond expectation. The flow of life also teaches forgiveness. We cling to grievances like rocks in a stream, hoping the water will move around us instead of through us. But the river does not stop. It flows on, and so must we. I remember two friends, torn apart by misunderstanding, each holding resentment tightly. I asked them to sit by a quiet pond, to watch the water, to breathe. "See how it moves?" I said. "You too must allow the flow. Let it wash away the bitterness. Let it soften the heart. Only in flowing with life can you truly forgive. Slowly, over weeks, they found compassion, understanding, and reconciliation. And so, my dear one, life's flow is always teaching. It teaches patience, humility, acceptance, flexibility, courage, presence, impermanence, joy, and forgiveness. It teaches that we cannot hold tightly, we cannot demand, we cannot force. We can only move gently, breathe deeply, and trust. And in this trust, we find freedom, peace, and love. Remember, the river does not stop. Sometimes it roars, sometimes it whispers, sometimes it is calm, sometimes turbulent. But always it moves, and so must we. Move with life, my dear one. Move with it, and you will discover the grace, the beauty, and the wisdom that only flow can bring. Each breath, each heartbeat, each moment is part of this river. Float, bend, breathe, and trust. Patience, presence, and courage. They are the oars, the gentle touch guiding you along the water. Do not cling, do not fight. Flow, my dear one, flow, and life will carry you exactly where you need to be. The art of letting go. Ah, my dear one, come closer and sit a while, for today we will speak of something very delicate, yet powerful, the art of letting go. Many people carry burdens they do not need, clinging to memories, grudges, fears, and regrets as though holding them tightly will somehow keep them safe. But in truth, these burdens weigh the heart down, cloud the mind, and prevent the spirit from breathing freely. Letting go is not giving up, my child. It is the gentle courage of releasing what no longer serves, of trusting life's unfolding, and of allowing yourself to flow unencumbered with the river of existence. I remember a young woman who came to me long ago. Her eyes were shadowed by sorrow, her steps hesitant and weary. "Master," she said softly, "I cannot forgive. I cannot forget. I am trapped in my pain, and I feel it everywhere I go." I looked at her gently, and with a smile I said, "Ah, my dear, it is not the world that traps you, but the grip of your own heart. You are carrying stones that do not belong to you. You have gathered them thinking they will protect you, but in truth, they weigh you down. Shall we learn to lay them down?" She looked at me, unsure, as though such freedom was impossible. "But Master," she whispered, "how can I release them? How can I breathe without them?" I took her hand and said softly, "You have always breathed, even with them. You will continue to breathe. Letting go is not losing yourself. It is finding yourself beyond the burden. Letting go begins with noticing, my child. First, you must see clearly what you clutch so tightly. I recall a man who came to me, bitter with resentment towards a brother who had wronged him. Each day, he relived the pain, rehearsed the anger, and nourished the hurt. "Master," he said, "I cannot forgive him. He does not deserve my kindness." I asked him to sit quietly by a quiet pond, to watch the reflection of the trees and the sky. "Do you see how the water receives everything? The falling leaf, the drifting cloud. But it does not hold on to them. It lets them pass, and in doing so, it remains clear and calm. You, too, must learn to let the leaves of your anger and grief drift by, without drowning in them." Slowly, over many weeks, he practiced noticing, observing, and releasing. It was not easy. The heart resists, like a child afraid of darkness. But with each breath, each gentle acknowledgement, he became lighter, freer, and more serene. Letting go also asks for trust, and trust is not simple. We fear that if we release, we will fall, we will lose, we will be empty. But emptiness, my dear one, is fertile soil. In emptiness, Life plants seeds of clarity, joy, and compassion. I once met an elder who had lost everything: home, possessions, even family ties. At first, despair consumed him. Yet slowly, as he surrendered, he began to see the beauty in simplicity. He noticed the birds at dawn, the laughter of neighbors, the gentle rhythm of his own breath. He began to live fully again, without clinging, and in that freedom, he discovered a depth of peace that wealth and security could never give. Stories teach us this well. I recall a child who loved a small bird dearly. The bird perched upon her shoulder each morning, chirping, bringing joy. But one day, the bird grew restless, longing to fly beyond the garden. The child's first impulse was to hold tight, to cling, to demand it stay. I whispered to her, "Do you see the wings, the wind, the sky? If you love the bird, you must let it fly. Only then can love remain pure." Reluctantly, she opened her hands. The bird soared, circling high, and returned at twilight. She learned that love and attachment are different. To truly love, one must release, allow freedom, and trust the flow of life. Letting go is also about forgiving oneself. So many people carry guilt like chains, punishing themselves for choices, mistakes, and paths once taken. I remember a young man burdened by regret over a friendship lost, an opportunity missed, and words spoken in anger. "Master," he said, "I have failed. I cannot forgive myself." I looked into his eyes and said, "Ah, but see, you are alive, breathing, still learning. Your mistakes do not define you. They are only teachers. The river does not blame the stones it passes. Water flows over them, around them, and continues. So too must you let the water of compassion flow over your heart." Over time, he began to soften, to release the sharp edges of his self-judgment, and to feel a tender peace blooming where guilt once lived. Letting go requires patience, my dear one. Do not expect to release in a single breath or a single day. I recall a monk who had held a grudge for many years, simmering quietly, thinking that time had not healed. Each session, each meditation, I reminded him gently, the river does not hurry. It moves steadily, ceaselessly, shaping the rocks over centuries. Your heart is like the river. Allow it to flow at its own pace. And slowly, he practiced, letting anger drift by like leaves, letting pain dissolve like morning mist, until one day, he realized he no longer felt its weight. Patience, gentle and persistent, was the secret. And yet, letting go is not mere release of sorrow or resentment. It is also release of expectation. Many people cling not to suffering, but to desire. The idea that life should be a certain way, that people should act according to our wishes, that happiness must arrive as planned. This too binds the heart. I once met a woman who longed for perfection in her family, her career, and her days. Nothing satisfied her, for life never exactly matched her blueprint. I told her, the river never repeats itself. The sun does not rise in the same way twice. If you hold tight to a pattern, you will miss the miracle of each moment. Let go of how life should be, and you will see how it is, and how beautiful it is. Slowly, she began to notice the laughter of her children, the gentle wind on her face, the warmth of tea on a rainy morning. Each moment became precious, not because it met expectation, but because it was simply perfectly alive. Letting go is also about gratitude. When we release, we see clearly what remains. I remember an old friend who had lost a home, wealth, and reputation in a storm of misfortune. At first, despair consumed him, but as he let go of what he could not change, he began to notice what still existed. Friends who stayed, the earth beneath his feet, the sun warming his face. And in gratitude for these simple gifts, his heart opened, filling with a quiet joy no possession could bring. There is a gentle wisdom in nature about letting go. Leaves fall from trees not in sorrow, but as part of life's rhythm. Rivers do not cling to stones. Clouds do not resist the wind. All moves, all flows, all releases in time. And we, too, are part of this rhythm. To hold tightly is to resist our nature. To let go is to honor it. Ah, my dear one, the art of letting go is a lifetime practice. It asks for courage, patience, observation, compassion, and trust. It asks us to notice the burdens we carry, to release them without shame, to forgive, to embrace impermanence, to accept what we cannot control, and to open our hearts to the gentle flow of life. Each breath, each heartbeat, each fleeting moment is a chance to practice, to release, to float upon the river, light and unburdened. Remember, letting go is not weakness. It is strength, quiet and steady, like water shaping stone, like wind wearing mountains, like the sun melting frost. To let go is to choose freedom, to choose peace, to choose life. My dear, practice gently. Observe what you hold. Place it down, one by one, and feel the weight lift, the heart open, the spirit breathe. And in this practice, you will find a profound serenity, a deep connection to the flow of existence, and the simple, unshakable joy of being alive. The silence between words. Ah, my dear one, come sit with me for a while. Let us speak today of something that seems invisible, but is more powerful than any loud voice, more profound than any teaching written on paper. The silence between words. You see, people often fill their lives with noise, with constant talking, thinking, planning, worrying, or explaining. They believe that sound, that movement, that activity proves life, proves meaning. But there is a quiet, gentle place between the sounds, a space where understanding grows, a place where the heart whispers truths too subtle for the ears to hear. It is in this silence, my child, that wisdom breathes, that love lingers, and that peace takes root. I remember a young man who came to me, restless and agitated, always speaking, always asking, always questioning. "Master," he said, "I cannot find peace. I cannot stop my mind. It keeps jumping from thought to thought. I cannot quiet it." I looked at him gently and said, "Ah, you are trying to hear silence with noisy ears. You are trying to catch a butterfly by running after it. Sit, breathe, and simply notice the spaces between your thoughts, the pauses between your words. It is there that the butterfly rests, that silence waits." He frowned, skeptical at first, for how could nothing, this emptiness, contain anything at all? And yet, over many days, he began to notice it. The pause between his breath in and breath out, the quiet after a word is spoken, the stillness at the edge of a thought. Slowly, his heart softened, his mind steadied, and he began to feel the gentle rhythm of life flowing in that unseen space. Silence is not emptiness, my dear one. It is full, like the sky before dawn, like the space between branches where birds may rest, like the calm surface of a lake untouched by wind. There was once a woman who feared silence because it reminded her of loneliness. She filled her days with noise, television, music, chatter, errands, and work. "Master," she said, "when it is quiet, I feel lost. I feel afraid. I cannot face myself." I took her to the forest and told her to listen, not to the birds, not to the wind, not to the rustle of leaves, but to the silence beneath it all. And slowly, she began to notice something. In the silence, she felt a gentle presence, like a warm hand resting on her shoulder. She realized then that silence is not absence. It is the container for life, the place where the heart speaks, where the soul breathes, and where we meet the essence of ourselves without judgment or demand. The silence between words teaches patience. How many times have we spoken too quickly, spoken without thinking, spoken to be heard rather than to understand? I remember a child who would interrupt constantly, asking questions, speaking before listening. I said to him, "There is a secret in waiting, in hearing what is not said, in noticing the pause. If you speak too fast, you miss the music of life, the song that plays softly beneath all noise." Over time, he learned the joy of listening, of watching, of waiting. And in that waiting, he found understanding deeper than any explanation could provide. Sometimes, the silence between words is the only space in which true connection grows. I recall two friends who quarreled, each convinced the other misunderstood, each filled with words of defense and argument. They came to me, frustrated and weary. I asked them simply, "Can you sit together without speaking and just notice each other? Can you breathe in the same room and feel without words?" At first, it was awkward, almost painful, but slowly, in the shared quiet, they began to sense the sorrow, the love, and the longing behind their anger. Without words, without reasoning, they met in the silence, and understanding blossomed like flowers after rain. Silence also teaches humility. How often do we speak to prove ourselves, to show that we know, to assert that we are right? And yet, the more we speak, the more we reveal our restlessness, our attachments, our fears. I remember a monk who believed his knowledge was great, who constantly shared teachings, who feared being silent. I said to him, "The river does not shout, yet it shapes the stones. The wind does not explain itself, yet it moves mountains. You do not need to speak to be. Let silence shape you, let it move you, let it teach you what words cannot." And slowly, he learned to pause, to breathe, to observe, and to find that in the quiet, wisdom arises naturally, without effort, without pride. The silence between words is also a place of healing. Many hearts are heavy with unspoken grief, unexpressed pain, unshared sorrow. There was a man who had suffered loss, yet he never spoke of it, fearing that words might make it more real. I invited him to sit quietly, to feel without naming, to breathe without explaining. And in the gentle stillness, he began to cry, softly, quietly, without shame. Each tear was a word unspoken, a burden released, a heart unburdened. And when he rose, there was a lightness in him, a gentle peace that words alone could never have given. Silence is also a teacher of presence. How often do we live in the past, regretting, wishing, fearing, or in the future, planning, striving, imagining? But in the silence, there is only now. I recall a woman who always worried, who could never rest, who never truly noticed the sun, the breeze, the warmth of a cup in her hands. I said to her, "Notice the quiet between your thoughts. Notice the pause between your breath. This is life happening now. Do not rush it. Do not analyze it. Do not fill it with noise. Just be." And slowly, she began to taste the sweetness of moments, the richness of being, the gentle miracle of simply existing. The silence between words also carries love, deeper than words ever could. I remember a father and child who could not express affection through speech. Words felt clumsy, insufficient, awkward. But when they sat quietly together, holding hands, watching the sunset, listening to the soft rustle of leaves, love spoke more powerfully than any sentence could. It was in the stillness that hearts communicated, without need for explanation, without need for applause. Even in teaching, silence is essential. A master may speak, may guide, may share, but the deepest lessons are often understood in the pauses, in the gaps, in the moments of reflection that follow a question or story. I recall a student who would always rush to answer, always to respond, always to act. I said, "Wait, breathe, notice the silence. It is not empty, it is full. It carries understanding, patience, and the seed of your own insight." And slowly, he learned that the space between words is where wisdom germinates, where clarity emerges, where one becomes more than the sum of spoken thoughts. Ah, my dear one, silence is not absence. It is presence. It is a place of growth, reflection, healing, understanding, love, patience, and humility. It is where we meet ourselves, where we meet others, where we meet life itself. To practice silence is not to withdraw from the world, but to engage with it more deeply, more fully, more lovingly. To notice the pause between words, to breathe in the quiet, to allow the stillness to teach, to allow the heart to speak in its own gentle language. This is the art of living fully. So, practice gently. Notice the space between your thoughts, between your words, between your breaths. Sit with it, breathe with it, listen to it. You will find that the silence carries everything you need: peace, love, understanding, patience, and the subtle, profound joy of being. And in time, you will see that the quietest moments often contain the loudest truths, that the gentlest pauses hold the deepest lessons, and that life, in all its richness, unfolds most beautifully in the spaces we often overlook. The journey's embrace. Ah, my dear one, now we have come to the end of this long journey together, and yet, in truth, endings are but gentle beginnings wearing the quiet cloak of farewell. Sit with me, for there is still much to breathe in, much to feel, and much to carry softly into your own life. You see, the path we have walked, through many parts, many stories, many whispers of the heart, was never about a destination. It was about the unfolding, the noticing, the small awakening that happens when we pause, when we breathe, when we allow life to teach us through moments both ordinary and extraordinary. I remember a traveler who once came to my temple, weary from roads that stretched longer than he thought he could walk, carrying burdens that felt heavier than the mountains themselves. He asked me, "Master, how will I know when I have arrived? When will I be ready? When will I be complete?" And I smiled gently, for the truth is simple, yet so easily overlooked. Arrival is not a place on a map, and completion is not a final checkmark in a long list. Arrival is found in the awareness of each step, and completion is discovered in the acceptance of each moment as it is, neither hurried nor delayed. Life, in its mysterious wisdom, whispers to us constantly, teaching without shouting, guiding without pushing. And so, my child, the end of this journey is not the end of yours. It is a quiet invitation to step forward with eyes and heart wide open, to walk with gentleness, to breathe with awareness, and to live with the humble joy of being. Think, if you will, of the river that flows endlessly through valleys and plains. It does not ask, "Am I far enough? Am I finished?" It simply moves, bends, and sings quietly along its path, giving life wherever it touches. So too must we move through our days. We will meet hardships. We will meet joy. We will stumble and rise, fall and rise again. And in all of it, we are learning the most subtle lessons, the ones that do not come in grand proclamations but in the small, almost invisible moments. The warmth of sunlight on your hands, the laughter that springs unbidden from your lips, the comfort of a deep breath when anxiety whispers too loudly. Ah, my dear, do not fear the weight of endings, for they are nothing but the gentle folding of one chapter so that another may unfold. I have watched many students cling to the idea of forever, holding the first step, the second step, or the part before the last. But in truth, the journey itself is a living, breathing thing. It does not ask you to hold on tightly. It asks only that you be present, that you notice, that you honor each small movement of your heart and each whisper of your mind. Even as we reach this final part, remember, every story, every lesson, every pause we have shared is now a seed in the fertile soil of your being. Nurture it gently, and watch as it grows into understanding, compassion, and quiet joy. There is a kind of beauty in closure that is often misunderstood. People think closure means forgetting, or leaving behind, or reaching some tidy ending. But the beauty of true closure, my child, is remembering with tenderness, letting go with love, and carrying forward with gentle courage. I think of an old tree, roots deep and branches wide. The leaves may fall in autumn, the wind may bend its trunk, the snow may weigh heavy upon it. Yet the tree remains steadfast, embracing each season, each change, each whisper of time. So too must we embrace our endings, not as losses, but as the natural rhythm of life, the gentle turning of a page that invites a new story, a new understanding, a new breath. I recall a woman who had walked through sorrow, disappointment, and countless moments of doubt. She believed her journey had been too long, her path too weary, and that perhaps the lessons had been cruel. And yet, in her final moments with me, sitting quietly beside a small garden of moss and stone, she understood something simple yet profound. That every hardship had been a teacher, every tear a messenger, and every small smile a bridge to deeper joy. "Master," she whispered, "I am tired, but I feel lighter somehow." And I smiled, for that is the gift of a journey embraced fully, the gift of ending seen not as finality, but as a tender opening to what comes next. Do not rush to reach the next moment, nor cling desperately to the one that has passed. Life, my child, is a gentle dance of breaths, of heartbeats, of quiet understanding. I have shared stories, teachings, reflections, and pauses with you, not to fill your mind with knowledge alone, but to touch the heart, to plant seeds that bloom quietly in their own time. Some seeds will flower tomorrow, some in years, and some may rest for a lifetime before revealing their hidden petals. That is the nature of life, and that is the nature of wisdom, patience, gentle noticing, and a soft heart. These are the companions that never fail, the friends that never leave. And love. Never forget the quiet, subtle, unwavering love that exists within you and all around you. It is not loud. It does not demand. It simply is. Sometimes, we are so busy seeking it in grand gestures or faraway places that we overlook it in the tender moments. The warmth of a shared smile, the comfort of a kind word, the solace of simply being near someone who cares. Let that love guide you now. As you move forward beyond this final part, as you step into the unknown with a heart that remembers the gentle lessons we have shared, I hope you carry this truth with you. Life is never about perfection, nor about achievement. Life is about noticing, about breathing, about being. Even as you walk through storms, even as you stumble, even as the world seems loud and chaotic, there is always a quiet place inside you where peace lives, where hope endures, where your own gentle spirit can rest and rise again. Trust it, lean into it, and do not be afraid of the endings, for they are, in truth, the soft, loving hands that guide you to new beginnings. As we reach this final part, I want you to remember one simple thing. The journey has been ours together, but now it belongs to you. Carry the stories, the lessons, the silences, and the joys with you like treasured stones in a pocket. Let them warm your hand when the wind is cold. Let them remind you of your own strength when doubt clouds your heart. Let them whisper encouragement when the road seems long. And know, deep within, that the path continues, always, infinitely, quietly waiting for your gentle steps, your mindful breaths, your open heart. And so, my dear one, I leave you not with commands, nor with instructions, but with the soft, enduring presence of all that we have shared. Go forward with kindness. Go forward with courage. Go forward with awareness of your own gentle power. The world will continue to turn, storms will come, winds will blow, but you carry within you the stillness, the love, the light, and the quiet wisdom that no one can take away. Remember always, breathe softly, walk gently, speak kindly, and notice the beauty that unfolds in every small, fleeting moment. The journey does not end here, for you are life, and life is endless. And in that endlessness, may you find peace, may you find joy, and may you find the quiet, tender happiness of simply being. Now, with all my heart, my dear one, I wish you well. Go gently, go softly, and carry these moments with you like sunlight in your pocket, like a whispered blessing, like the soft embrace of a friend who will always quietly be near. This is the end of our series, yet it is only the beginning of your own unfolding. May your heart always remember the warmth, the calm, and the deep, quiet love that lives in each breath, each pause, each step along the path. And so, with a gentle bow and a soft smile, I say, walk in peace, live in love, and carry the journey's embrace with you forever.